Forge Master of Fuses. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Exchange Students. Old Master Li Bangxia is indeed an old fox who has been walking around the world for many years. He is very good at telling lies to people and to ghosts. In front of the Alliance Military Academy, he claimed that he was entrusted by the Hu family. In front of the Hu family, he claimed that he was appointed by the Alliance Military Academy. Both sides believed him. Old Master Li Bangxia successfully landed on the planet Sumer and came to Hukei. With the title of a 7th-level pharmacist, Old Master Li Bangxia successfully gained Hukei's trust. In a few seconds, he got the words out of Hukei's mouth and successfully saw the culprit who made Hukei sick. Old Master Li Bangxia looked at the familiar string of data, pretended to be silent for a long time, and then said faintly, "I seem to have seen this set of data somewhere." Upon hearing this, Hukei immediately became excited. Old Master Li Bangxia did not hide anything and actually opened his own database to this guy. Of course, it can only be the part that is not confidential. Unfortunately, Hukei accompanied Mr. Li Bangxia to search for 3 whole days, but still did not find a similar data. But Hukei did not give up, nor did he want to give up. The school library is only half open to students of its own school. Can Mr. Li Bangxia's database be open to a second-year student from another school casually? He is so lucky, so he should open his eyes more? Once he opened his eyes, Hukei could no longer move. When Mr. Li Bangxia pulled the data out of the confidential data and placed it in front of Hukei, there was no joy on his face, but he felt as sad as if his parents had died. Because he would never see those precious data and information that he could not find. When he thought of this, Hukei's heart was as cold as an ice cave in the coldest days of winter. He blurted out a sentence from his heart without having time to think about it. "Senior Li, I'm dropping out of the Alliance Military Academy now and reapplying for the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy." Is it too late? Old Master Li Bangxia was stunned at first, and then laughed out loud. The Blue Ocean Mecha Academy has always had a broad admissions rule. As long as you are under 25 years old, can pass the entrance exam, and are aspiring to study, the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy will not refuse anyone. However, I don't know whether the Alliance Military Academy and Professor Tao will let a talent like Mr. Hu go. Hukei thought about Tao Bixie's fierce face, and couldn't help shuddering. He asked cautiously, "Do the Alliance Military Academy and the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy send exchange students to each other?" Old Master Li Bangxia touched his chin and laughed. It wasn't before. However, if Mr. Hu is willing, it may not be impossible in the future. When Hukei heard this, his expression suddenly brightened. Professor Li's words make sense. From top to bottom, the old Hu family believes in the old saying, more children, more blessings. Hukei's grandfather had 12 brothers and sisters. Hukei's father had no fewer brothers and sisters than his grandfather, a full 15. Hukei himself also had 12 brothers and 4 sisters. Therefore, this guy can only be ranked 18th on the list of Hu family heirs. And this guy's father, by some miracle, is number 1 on the list of Hu family heirs. He can take the position as soon as his grandfather dies. As the most talented pharmacist in the Hu family, this kid wants to go to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy as an exchange student. How can his father not make arrangements? How can the Hu family hold the position of the largest pharmaceutical material supplier in the alliance without some skills? Before Mr. Li Bangxia had time to pack his luggage, the notice of sending exchange students between the Blue Sea Mecha Academy and the Alliance Military Academy was issued. 1 quota for each major, and each school will be stationed in the other school for up to 3 years. In other words, most of the study time will be spent on the other's campus. The first on the list of the first batch of exchange students was Hukei. What was unexpected was that Yinju was also on the list. When it was heard that this list was jointly drawn up by Song Yuanqi, Marshall Black, Lan Yuan and Zhou Ding, the sisters Yinju and Yin Yulan were completely confused. Yinju changed her appearance, but it was agreed by the 2 marshals and supported by Lan Yuan. It was not easy to come to the Alliance Military Academy, but how could she be sent back accidentally? The sisters were puzzled. It was not until Moran sent a message asking for credit that Yinju knew that the main reason why she was packed and sent back to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy was actually the credit of this guy. Because Moran thought that his military thinking was too compatible with the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. So, after knowing that the two schools could send exchange students to each other, he actually recommended Yinchu to Zhouding. The three men who knew the inside story had no way to deal with Zhouding, who was completely unaware of it. After all, classmate Yinchu's recent performance is really outstanding. Principal Zhou is willing to give it. How can you, Blue Ocean Mecha Academy, refuse it? In this way, in order not to reveal their tracks, the three big guys ruthlessly betrayed her. Faced with this reason that was not the reason, Yinchu wanted to beat up Moran. Unfortunately, it was impossible to beat him with half of the alliance between them. But it was absolutely impossible for Yinchu to let him go. Yinchu didn't have to do too much, just take a screenshot of the dialogue box and send it to the two marshals Song Yuanxi and Blake. After doing all this, Yinchu smiled and replied to Moran with an ambiguous message: "The return gift is on the way, I hope you like it. Come on, senior brother. When God is about to give a man a great responsibility, he must first make his mind suffer, his muscles and bones tired, his body hungry, his body empty, and his actions not disturbed, so that he can be moved and endure, and improve what he cannot do." Senior brother Moran, who is destined to do great things, will definitely like the return gift she gave him. As for not liking this option, Yinchu didn't consider it at all. After all, senior brother Moran didn't give her the right to choose, right? People. It's mutual. Come on. Hurt each other. Of course, the most seriously injured is not Yinchu, who is about to become an exchange student, nor is it Moran, who is about to improve what he cannot do, but Yin Yulan, whose status has declined because of Hu Kei's departure and whose 3 meals a day are not available because of Yinchu's departure. So, Yin Yulan also secretly reported the target. There are two. One is her biological father, Mr. Qin Mian. The other is her childhood sweetheart, Mr. George Black. These two people are not only treacherous, but also protective of their own. Brother Moran's road to tempering immediately became difficult and long. The kind of tempering that increases the quantity without increasing the price will definitely make Brother Moran grow up quickly. Then, he fully realized what kind of people, especially women, should not be offended. But even if he reported the crime, those who should be exchange students still have to be exchange students, those who should starve still have to starve. Chapter 302 Good Days. When the wind from the planet Sumer took away the last sycamore leaf, the starship also took away Yinchu and Hu Kei, the time bomb, leaving Yin Yulan alone in the cold wind. Yinchu looked at her gradually shrinking figure, and felt bad. Even though she and Yin Yulan knew that the exchange students sent by the Blue Sea Mecha Academy's pharmacy department must have someone they knew, and they would definitely become Yin Yulan's helper. But the sense of security they gave each other was irreplaceable. Hu Kei looked at the two people who were reluctant to part with a complicated look, and said with emotion, "You two have a great relationship." Yinchu looked at him with a smile, and said meaningfully, "There are not many fools like her in this world who are sold and help others count money. I must cherish her." Hu Kei smiled awkwardly and did not dare to respond. From then on, Hu Kei saw Yinchu from a distance and began to take a detour. Of course, Yinchu had no time to deal with him. Blue Sea Mecha Academy was her home ground, and even wearing the vest of Yinchu could not hide her edge. The evildoer of the Alliance Military Academy quickly became the evildoer of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, and became the other people's children in the mouths of teachers of various subjects in the mecha driving department, firmly holding everyone's hatred. It is said that this girl won the favor of Director Go Seogu as soon as she arrived, and was invited to Director Gao's home as a guest, and even played with Director Gao's nephew to the extent that they were siblings. It is said that this girl also conquered the most eccentric professor in the mecha driving department and the most likely to transfer to the art department, Zhao Jingshu, who is also the biological mother of Go Seogu's nephew. Therefore, she looked at Yinchu differently and specially opened a small class for her to teach her the relevant knowledge of mecha design. It is said that Professor Ao Long of the Starship Casting Department, Professor Gao Zhan of the Command Department, Professor Li Bangsha of the Pharmacy Department, all regarded this exchange student as their own son or nephew. Everyone in the Blue Sea Mecha Academy began to speculate what kind of magic this young lady had cast on the professors. However, only Yinchu herself knew that she had no magic. The reason why these people looked at her differently was partly because of the emotional foundation laid by her real self under the vest, and the other half was because the food at the Blue Sea Mecha Academy was still as unpalatable as ever. In order to keep her, the cook who could cook for half of the teachers at the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, shouldn't they give her some benefits? In just 1 month, Yin Chu, who was given special treatment by teachers of various subjects, gained as much as she would have in a whole year at the Alliance Military Academy. 1 month later, the final exam season of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy arrived as scheduled. While other exchange students were overwhelmed because the academic system of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy was slightly different from that of the Alliance Military Academy, Yin Chu firmly seized this opportunity, quickly finished some of the courses that she had already been familiar with, and submitted an application for a minor in the command department. And this guy actually passed. For a while, the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy was filled with wailing. On the campus network, more than 3,000 floors were built in 1 hour to ask Yin Chu to get out of the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy. Yin Chu really became a target of public criticism. As soon as the final exam was over, Yin Chu was so scared that he immediately boarded the nearest starship and rolled back to his home Lingsu star region. As soon as Yin Chu stepped off the starship, he was greeted by a tearful man. "We agreed to be together, but you abandoned me halfway. Do you know how I got through the last month? I couldn't eat well, I couldn't sleep well. It was really too hard for me." Yin Chu rubbed the tearful Yin Yulan and soothed her softly. "Didn't I rush to see you as soon as I got off? At most, I won't go anywhere during this winter vacation. I'll just stay by your laboratory and prepare food for you. Is that okay?" Taking off his vest, Tang Fan is still the owner of the largest mecha foundry and a starship foundry in the Alliance, Tang Gang's daughter, and the sister of little Tang Sr. Even if Yin Chu was just saying it to coax herself, Yin Yulan felt warm in her heart. She grabbed Yin Chu's sleeve and said seriously, "You said it yourself. You can't leave if I don't let you go." Looking at Yin Yulan, who was still childish but trapped in the Alliance Military Academy because of her, Yin Chu felt so guilty. Even though she knew that her words "I can't eat and can't sleep" were not true, she still nodded seriously and said, "This winter vacation, wherever you go, I will follow you." "You are a liar, you are a dog." The little girl with tears in her eyes finally smiled after hearing this. Yin Chu did not lie. She really stayed with Yin Yulan all winter vacation. In addition to normal physical and mental contact every day, she prepared 3 meals a day and reserved food for Yin Yulan so that Yin Yulan would continue to not be able to eat and sleep after school started. Kenya always thought that Tang Fan's words were just to coax her, but she didn't expect that she would carry them out so thoroughly. It was fine for 1 or 2 days, but after a long time, Tang Fan still didn't say anything, and Kenya felt sorry for her best friend and chased her away. Tang Fan's little arm couldn't twist Kenya's thigh, so he could only bid farewell to his best friend and go to the Savage Star region to handle official business. In fact, since she returned to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, she has basically regained her freedom. Under the cover of Principal Lan Yuanlin and Zhao Jingshu, she has basically resumed the management and control of the Mecha Factory and the Starship Factory. It's just that Qin Yi didn't ask about this kind of thing, and she couldn't say it directly, right? It's definitely not her intention to hide it. Absolutely not. Such a gentle and considerate bestie, Tang Fan is going to cherish her for life. Look, she didn't forget her bestie even when she was obsessed with work. Remembering that she likes the wild Starfield delicacies, she also specially prepared a lot of dishes for her, and asked Uncle William to bring them to Qin Yi. What is this? This is full of bestie friendship. When school started, Yin Yulan had 2 small space buckles in her hands. The space buckle is not worth money, and the things inside are not expensive, but they are all the thoughts of her bestie Tang Fan and her fiancé George. The 2 space buckles are full, and every inch of them is filled with food. This is Yin Yulan's reserve food for this semester, and it is also the motivation to support her to continue staying in the Alliance Military Academy. Fortunately, at the beginning of the new semester, Peng Kaitun asked for leave. At the same time, Professor Tao Bixi took senior brother Fang Boy out for a meeting again. The 3 mountains above her head were removed, and Yin Yulan was so happy that she immediately liked the classical golden song Good Day. Today is a good day. Chapter 303 Backstab. Unfortunately, Yin Yulan was too happy too early. Professor Tao Bixi's meeting was a bit short this time, but in just 7 days, her good days were over. Professor Tao not only came back very quickly, but also brought back the lowest possible low pressure. For 2 consecutive weeks, all the seniors who went to Professor Tao to report on their work were criticized by Professor Tao. Even Fang Boy has started to behave himself recently, and he feels very obedient. People like Yin Yulan, who live at the bottom of society, can only be cautious and try to reduce their presence. Yin Yulan did everything she could, but still couldn't escape the fate of being called into Professor Taubixi's office. Fortunately, Professor Taubixi didn't call her in to report on her work, nor did she criticize her to death, but gave her a task with a serious look to clean up the laboratory next door. The little shrimp Yin Yulan had no right to object. He immediately picked up the vacuum cleaner and took the cleaning robot with him, heading towards the next door laboratory with 3 feet of dust. While working, Yin Yulan's brain was not idle. The pharmacy department of the Alliance Military Academy has 3 A-level laboratories. Bai Jifeng and Tao Bi each have 1, and the laboratory that Yin Yulan cleaned was the last one. Although all 3 laboratories are A-level, strictly speaking, Professor Taubixi's laboratory is even better than Bai Jifeng's laboratory in terms of area and equipment. Bai Jifeng is still the head of the pharmacy department, so Professor Taubixi will more or less give him some face. It is impossible for Taubixi to occupy 2 A-level laboratories at once, and it is impossible in this lifetime. So, Taubixi personally asked her to clean the laboratory. Is it for another person? It can meet the standards of using an A-level laboratory, and Taubixi can also manage it personally. The person who wants to use the laboratory looks not simple. Yin Yulan cleaned up the lab next door with great difficulty, and immediately found the exchange student of the pharmacy department and leaked the news. When Mr. Li Bangsha received the news from the exchange student, he only replied with 4 words, "Be patient." Yin Yulan looked at these 4 words and couldn't help sucking his teeth. Creating suspense is simply too annoying. Fortunately, Yin Yulan didn't have to wait too long, and the other shoe dropped. The owner of the laboratory, together with Peng Kagan, who had not reported to the school for a long time, appeared on the planet Sumer. Yin Yulan anticipated countless possibilities, and she guessed most of the 7th-level pharmacists of the Alliance, but she didn't expect that the person who appeared in front of her would be the notorious Anna Smith. Even though she came to the Alliance Military Academy in the name of a visiting scholar, Yin Yulan still felt deeply that this was a serious dereliction of duty by Principal Zhou Dingzhou. Unfortunately, her little arm, Yin Yulan, couldn't beat the school's thigh. Yin Yulan could only complain to her best friend secretly. Yin Chu was not only more open-minded than Yin Yulan, but also more thoughtful and deeper than her. Professor Taubixi and Anna Smith are from the same school. But after Professor Taubixi got the news that Anna was coming, she didn't feel the slightest bit of joy. Even things like cleaning the laboratory had to be delayed for 2 weeks. This can only mean one thing: this pair of sisters don't get along. Yin Yulan smacked his lips, and came to his senses, and asked with a smile, "Then who do you think has the upper hands between the 2 of them?" Yin Chu smiled bitterly and said, "How big is the difference between the Alliance Military Academy and the Alliance First Academy? I don't need to analyze it. Anna Smith is the dean, and Taubixi has the word deputy in front of the dean. They're all doing genetic research. Everyone in the Alliance knows Anna Smith, but nearly half of the people don't know who Taubixi is. Black and red are also red. Although, I hate Anna Smith more. But I have to admit that Professor Taubixi is slightly inferior in terms of scheming and tactics." Yin Yulan rubbed his face, and there was a hint of bitterness in his voice. "Anna Smith is here as a visiting scholar. It's good enough that the school can give her a laboratory. It's impossible to arrange a laboratory assistant for her. If her laboratory is short of staff, as a junior sister, Taubixi will inevitably become the object of Anna Smith's help. And Yin Yulan, who is on the edge and whose job is mostly to serve tea and water, will most likely become the first victim." Yin Chu obviously thought of this. "So, your first task is to get yourself a project. Even if you are not busy, you have to pretend to be very busy. Only in this way can you avoid Anna Smith's clutches." Yin Yulan's face is longer than a donkey. "I'll try my best." Yin Yulan took the initiative to find Fang Boi with a tried attitude. Unexpectedly, Fang Boi, who always has a bad face, was particularly easy to talk to this time. He directly took out a project plan from a waste paper box next to his desk, glanced at the title, and threw it into Yin Yulan's arms. Then, classmate Yin Yulan suddenly transformed herself into someone with a research project. Although it was a bit sloppy, Yin Yulan was still extremely moved. She finally didn't have to go to Anna Smith's laboratory. Yin Yulan didn't want to go to Anna Smith's laboratory, but that didn't mean that other people thought the same. As soon as Anna Smith moved into the laboratory, Peng Kagan, the young master of Peng, immediately joined her and took away a lot of advanced experimental equipment. Faced with this obvious backstabbing behavior, Professor Taubixi turned into a Ninja Turtle and injured it. This made many people's minds fluctuate. As far as Yin Yulan knew, at least 3 groups of people had tentatively contacted N.S. Smith. Of course, there would be more that Yin Yulan didn't know. But Professor Taubixi still maintained her style of not caring about anything. She did whatever she had to do. It was unknown whether she really didn't care or pretended not to care. At the end of the month when N.S. Smith entered the laboratory, an experimenter bypassed Professor Taubixi and submitted a transfer application to the school. The school agreed quickly. With the first brave man to try something new, there will be endless followers. In just over 10 days, half of the people in Professor Taubixi's laboratory were gone. Among the remaining half, there were still those who were waiting to see what was offered. Yin Yulan, with his small arms and legs, couldn't help but feel a little sympathy for Professor Taubixi in the face of this scene. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304, A Mistake. Professor Taubixi, who was sympathized by Yin Yulan, was not only calm in the face of this situation, but also seized the opportunity to tell Fang Boy the art of judging people. This mentality is simply amazing. After another half a month, those who were waiting for the prize had also settled down. Anna Smith's laboratory was established at the fastest speed. But there were less than 1/3 of people left in Taubixi's laboratory. Inside and outside the school, many people were holding small stools, waiting to see Taubixi's joke. Taubixi didn't need to guess that Anna Smith was definitely involved. Even Peng Kaidun may have intervened. Taubixi also knew that as long as she made a little concession and took the initiative to seek peace, Anna Smith and Peng Kaidun would definitely help her clean up this mess. But Taubixi couldn't give in, and didn't dare to give in. She cut off many unnecessary projects with a drastic cut, and coordinated their work according to everyone's expertise. Even a marginal figure like Yin Yulan, who served tea and poured water, was promoted out of the ordinary and took over the work of data statistics. Although women were used as men and men were used as animals, and overtime was a daily operation, Taubixi insisted on not recruiting anyone, and relied on 1/3 of the team to maintain the normal operation of the laboratory. This kind of magical operation opened the eyes of all those who were waiting to see the joke. Everyone said, Taubixi just doesn't like to manage things, not that she can't manage things. If she really manages things, no one else will have anything to do. But only the people inside the laboratory know how much workload each of them has. What 996 social animals can't be compared with these scientific research dogs. Everyone talked less, did more things, had a closer relationship with Professor Taubixi, received simpler and more direct guidance, and naturally doubled the gains. In just 1 month, Professor Taubixi's laboratory produced 2 small scientific research results. After the application was approved, the 2 project leaders took the initiative to treat everyone to a takeaway meal from the cafeteria. Yes, going to the cafeteria to eat has become a luxury for the members of the laboratory. The time spent on going back and forth, ordering dishes, and serving dishes is enough for them to complete several sets of experiments. Looking at the bustling scene in Taubixi's laboratory, the onlookers quietly dispersed. When the noise outside slowly calmed down, Professor Taubixi decisively applied to the school. Nothing else was asked for, just a few robots to do some simple work. According to Professor Taubixi, robots can greatly liberate researchers, and they are less talkative and work seriously, and they are safe and reliable. The only drawback, of course, the thinking is not active enough, and there is no imagination and R&D ability. However, safety first. It seems that this wave of betrayal is still quite harmful to Professor Taubixi. Compared with the frequent scientific research results in Professor Taubixi's laboratory, the laboratory next door seems a bit bleak. In order to trick the researchers into their own laboratory, Anna Smith and Peng Kaidun said a lot of things: credit points, nutrients, research materials, experimental equipment. As long as the researchers dare to ask, these 2 guys dare to agree. But when the researchers really took the bait, they realized what it meant to talk better than singing. It is impossible to have that thing, and it will never happen in this lifetime. If you are willing to lower your requirements, these 2 guys can still keep you in the laboratory to help with chores. If you are determined to go against them, The door of the laboratory is open, you can stay wherever you want. Since ancient times, betrayal cannot be brought out in the open. Therefore, most of the experimenters signed verbal agreements with these two guys, which have no legal effect. After these two guys did this, most of the experimenters were dumbfounded and could only let them do whatever they wanted. It is said that some people have approached Taobixi and Fangboyi and expressed their desire to come back. However, they were flatly rejected by Taobixi and Fangboyi. Why keep such a treacherous villain if you don't hurry up and get rid of him? Wait for him to find an opportunity and betray you again? Compared with those researchers who stole the chicken but lost the rice, Yin Yulan can be considered lucky. Because she stood up to the right leader and seized the opportunity, the girl suddenly moved from the margins to the ranks of researchers. With solid basic knowledge and strong professional ability, she caught the eye of Professor Taobixi after following several projects. In the case of a shortage of manpower, she also got 2 less complicated small projects. Is this considered a turnaround? Yin Yulan, who was 1 step closer to her goal, was so happy that she almost jumped up. Even the vacation that she had been eagerly looking forward to in the past was no longer attractive. She spent the entire summer vacation in the laboratory. She stood up Yinchu and almost made someone a wife-waiting stone. Of course, hard work pays off. The 2 projects handed over to Yin Yulan were not only completed, but also produced several results. Professor Taobixi saw it, kept it in mind, and gave her 2 more projects. However, the difficulty of these 2 projects is more than a little greater than the one she just completed. Student Yin Yulan happily took the project and left, so that when the school approached her, she remembered that there was such a thing as the Alliance Military Quality Competition in the world. Yes, the annual Alliance Military Quality Competition is about to begin again. Unfortunately, Miss Elena, Song Zifan, and Bai Man have already graduated, and student Yin Chu has become an exchange student, and student Yin Yulan is obsessed with experiments and can't extricate himself. There are basically no old faces in this year's Alliance Military Academy. The school leaders and teacher Peng Lei can only put this burden on Jin Rui's shoulders. But no matter how hard Jin Rui tried, the team he put together was scattered and far from the temperament of the previous 2 sessions. The Alliance Military Academy is smart, and other military academies are not stupid either. Learning from the experience and lessons of the previous 2 sessions, other military academies also know how to integrate the best resources of their schools and equip them with outstanding students from various majors. Therefore, this year's Alliance Military Quality Competition, the Alliance Military Academy had a particularly difficult time. I almost didn't appear in the preliminary round, let alone the others. After 2 rounds of elimination, he barely managed to get the 10th place and returned home in defeat. When the news reached the Alliance Military Academy, the whole school was filled with cries. On the campus network, the calls for Yinchu to return were getting louder and louder. Even Jin Ruian accidentally gave a thumbs up. The top management of the Alliance Military Academy had to come forward to communicate with the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy to adjust the study and exchange time of the exchange students. Chapter 305. When the request from the Union Military Academy came, Yin Chu happened to be in Lan Yuan's office. She listened to the Union Military Academy's request word by word, and curled her lips at the line of words sent to her by Principal Lan Yuan. What do you think? What can she think? At the beginning, you asked me to get out, and I got out. Now, you want me to come back? Sorry. I'm so far away, I can't come back. Lan Yuan, who originally wanted to see Yin Chu make a fool of himself, was almost made fun of by Yin Chu after reading the words that Yin Chu replied to him. Choked by saliva or something? It really doesn't fit the temperament of a school leader and a role model. Having said that, Yin Chu is at least a student of the Union Military Academy, and there is also a Yin Yulan who makes her miss the school very much. Yin Chu still made Lan Yuan relax and agreed that she would go back to the Union Military Academy next fall to deal with the Union Military Quality Competition before enrolling. Hard mouth and soft heart are simply tailor-made for Yin Chu. Principal Lan Yuan, seeing that he still wanted to ask others to eat, barely held back his thoughts of complaining. After all, if you see through things but don't say it, you can still be friends. Yin Chu was very satisfied with Principal Lan's knowledge and taste. Look, at dinner in the evening, he even gave Principal Lan an extra bowl of soup. Principal Lan was very pleased about this. Compared with Zhouding, the stingy iron rooster, Yin Chu is definitely much more sensible. In fact, Yin Chu returned to the Alliance Military Academy earlier than expected. It's not that she missed this school, nor that she was crazy about Yin Yulan, nor that she missed the Alliance military quality competition, but that her mental training had encountered a bottleneck. When asking for help from Mr. Li Bangsha was useless, Yin Chu could only return to the Alliance Military Academy in dejection to find Professor Bai Jifan Bai. The Sumerian planet was bleak in winter, but when he saw Yin Chu appear in front of him, the smile on Professor Bai Jifan's face was like a spring flower, quietly blooming. It's still early before school starts. Why are you coming to school instead of spending time with your relatives and friends? Looking at Bai Jifan's dead look of asking knowingly, Yin Chu felt his back teeth itching. Professor Bai, do you know what kind of people I hate the most in the world? Bai Jifan took a deep look at Yin Chu and shook his head. Yin Chu said coldly, the kind of people who only say half of what they say and keep the other half, and do half of what they do and then stop doing it. While speaking, a familiar game tablet was pushed in front of Professor Bai Jifan. Let's talk. Click, click. It was the sound of Yin Chu snapping his fingers. The light sounds made Bai Jifan's teeth ache. He picked up the game tablet tremblingly and clicked it, and some hidden content slowly emerged. Bai Jifan gently pushed the game tablet in front of Yin Chu and explained in a low voice, I didn't hide this part on purpose. First, this part is a bit dangerous and requires special guidance. Second, I didn't expect that your progress would be so fast. Yin Chu raised her eyebrows. Blame me. There is no point in arguing about such meaningless things. Professor Bai Jifan touched his nose and admitted his mistake straightforwardly. How can you say that? Blame me. It's all my fault. Seeing that Bai Jifan had given in, Yin Chu also stopped and took the game tablet and started swiping. Bai Jifan quickly stood next to Yin Chu and explained it to her carefully. Bai Jifan did not lie to Yin Chu. A big part of the reason why he hid this part of the content was that the rules of this part of the game were too complicated and difficult, which could easily cause damage to mental strength. Although it is not irreversible, whoever has tried it knows how it feels to have their mental power injured. Yin Chu is the little white mouse that Bai Jifan found with great difficulty. No, it is the helper that he found with great difficulty. Bai Jifan does not want Yin Chu to have any problems. If the experiment time is prolonged, that's fine. If it causes psychological shadows or something, the experiment will be over. Therefore, Professor Bai Jifan explained again and again, and reminded again and again, and then Yin Chu entered the midterm mental training game. Yes, in the mental training game, in addition to the elementary level that Yin Chu has already passed, the intermediate level that is in progress, and the advanced level that is just a final step. However, Bai Jifan will never say this kind of thing until the last moment. He is definitely the kind of person that Yin Chu hates the most. If you were to write a novel, this guy would definitely be the kind of guy who would reverse, and reverse again. Of course, this guy is also likely to be a eunuch or have a bad ending. Unfortunately, Yin Chu has fallen into his pit and can't climb out for a while. The intermediate mental training game is indeed difficult, but for Yin Chu, it is just the difference between mastering it in 1 day and mastering it in 1 week. The rest of the proficiency is just a matter of time. Yin Chu, who has acquired new skills, can finally sleep well. Then, get up to prepare food for Yin Yulan, who is working day and night on research. Without a regular feeding, Yin Yulan, who is obsessed with research and can't extricate herself, has lost more than 20 pounds in just 1 year. She has successfully turned from a round and beautiful little beauty into a short bamboo pole that is not much better than Yin Chu. How can the breeder Yin Chu bear this? Therefore, 3 meals and midnight snacks, feeding Yin Yulan regularly, became the only and most important task after Yin Chu's physical and mental training. During her stay at the Alliance Military Academy, not to mention making Yin Yulan fat again, at least she has to gain more than 10 pounds. In order to complete this task, Yin Chu is really desperate. Fry, stir-fry, cook, deep fry, boil, simmer, stew, fry, roast, blanch. Whatever Yin Chu knows, she has shown it all. If that doesn't work, Yin Chu has a trick up her sleeve, the tenfold tonic soup. Never heard of it? Buddha jumps over the wall, you know? It's the one that the aroma of meat spreads to the neighbors when the altar is opened, and the Buddha jumps over the wall when he hears it. Buddha jumps over the wall. Not to mention Yin Yulan, the foodie, even Professor Bai Jifan, Yin Chu is confident that she can take him down. As for Professor Tao Bixi, Yin Chu can only shrug her shoulders. After all, if she is confident that she can take down this guy, she didn't use it earlier. That would be annoying for Yin Yulan. Or annoying for Yin Yulan. Chapter 306 You and Me. Yin Qiu didn't expect was that Professor Taobixi actually fell for this trick. Half of the Buddha jumps over the wall that she prepared for Yin Yulan went into Professor Taobixi's stomach. However, according to another diner, Mr. He Qingfeng, the reason why Professor Taobixi drank so much Buddha jumps over the wall was not only because Yin Qiu was good at cooking, but more importantly, because Yin Yulan finally gained Professor Taobixi's trust. If Anna Smith and Peng Kaihun hadn't done this, even if the Buddha jumps over the wall prepared by Yin Qiu could really make the Buddha abandon his Zen and jump over the wall, Taobixi might not have drunk a sip. According to what you said, there should be some story behind this. Yin Qiu's voice was 100% certain. Mr. He Qingfeng smiled awkwardly and began to explain the story of why Professor Taobixi didn't eat outside. Taobixi has another sister, Tao Qingxi. Although the two sisters are 2 years apart in age, they have a very good relationship, just like twins. The two sisters are both very talented in pharmacy, and they both became students of Professor Field, studying and researching genetic science together. The two sisters are talented and hardworking, and soon made some achievements in pharmacy. If things go according to the established route, it will not become a story. So, what happened next? Yin Qiu's voice was full of carelessness. He Qingfeng's desire to confide was gone. Later, something happened. Faced with the obvious perfunctory of He Qingfeng, Yin Qiu couldn't help but frown. Is it interesting to say half of the words? Or is the rice wine not good to drink? He Qingfeng heard a strong threat from this sentence. Under the pressure of the situation, the alcoholic old man He Qingfeng immediately restrained his attitude and explained seriously, I don't know what happened later. I only know that when I graduated, only Taobixi left school. And her inseparable sister Tao Qingxi has never appeared in public. She became the wife of Professor Field's eldest son, Pound Field. And in the spring of the second year, when she gave birth to the eldest grandson Olet Field for the Field family, she had an accident and was in a coma until today. It was also from that time that Taobixi began to not accept things from outsiders casually, especially things that go into her mouth. Although it was a few pieces of news that were obviously irrelevant, Yin Qiu not only understood them, but also heard a lot of other things. She pushed her back teeth and squinted her eyes. Was Anna Smith there at that time? Old man He Qingfeng looked at Yin Qiu deeply and nodded. Yin Qiu smiled. As soon as Mr. He Qingfeng told this story, most of the doubts in Yin Qiu's heart were solved. Why did Mr. Li Bangsha recommend Taobixi to them? Why was Mr. Li Bangsha so sure that Taobixi would not get involved in the research of mutant creatures? Why did Taobixi have such an attitude towards Anna Smith? Everything stems from this. If Anna Smith had known about Field's crazy plan a long time ago, if Anna Smith took the initiative to become an infertile patient in order to escape the fate of becoming an experimental subject, if the Tao sisters were the experimental subjects that Anna Smith found for Professor Field from the beginning, if Tao Qingxi really sacrificed herself to save Taobixi, then everything makes sense. It is said that Professor Anna Smith is infertile. I don't know if it is a congenital deficiency, or everyone is smart. Hearing the music, he knows the elegant meaning. Mr. He Qingfeng was awakened at once. He opened his eyes wide and looked at Yin Qiu in disbelief, breathing a little fast. You suspect that Taobixi's feud with Anna Smith is probably related to this incident? Yin Qiu tapped his palm and sneered. I don't just suspect, I am sure that all this is related to her, although I don't know where Yin Qiu got the confidence to say such a thing. But since Yin Qiu said it, old man He Qingfeng believed it. Little girl, it's okay for you to say this without evidence in front of me. I'm old and my memory is not good. I'll forget it after hearing it. Don't go out and yell about it. If it accidentally reaches Professor Tao's ears, old man He Qingfeng smacked his face twice and didn't continue talking. He just gave Yin Qiu a look of you know. Yin Qiu smacked his face and asked a completely unrelated question. In fact, if you break it down, there are many aspects of genetic research. I wonder which aspect Professor Taobixi is best at. Old man He Qingfeng was stunned by Yin Qiu's question. As soon as she saw the expression on Mr. He Qingfeng's face, Yin Qiu knew that she had asked the wrong person. Yin Qiu did not continue to embarrass him. She took out a jar of rice wine that had been stored in the space buckle for a long time and threw it to him. Yin Qiu, who had received a lot of gossip, patted the dust off her butt and left. She must share this first-hand information with her best friend. Then, Let her best friend find Professor Tao Bixi's previous papers and study them carefully. They must confirm what Mr. He Qingfang was not sure about. She was busy. Not to mention Yin Chu, even the professional Yin Yulan knew about this gossip of Mr. He Qingfang for the first time. Without Yin Chu analyzing it with her in detail, Yin Yulan understood the twists and turns. If this is the case, should we invite Professor Tao to Hongaiyu Star to show it to Auntie? Maybe. Yin Chu covered Yin Yulan's mouth and shook her head. So many years have passed. Have you heard any news about Professor Tao Bixi's sister? Yin Yulan looked at the calm Yin Chu and sighed deeply. After all, she is your mother. Yin Chu pursed her lips and nodded. I don't deny that. So, I have fulfilled my obligations. What Yin Chu didn't say was, I may not hate her, but I can't love her. If possible, she doesn't even want to come into this world. Such a life experience, such a body, all of this is humiliating. Yin Chu clenched his fists, closed his eyes silently, and deeply concealed the unwillingness in his eyes. Yin Yulan silently stretched out his arms and took her into his arms. You still have me. Chapter 307 Bad Taste. Yin Chu is calmness. The greatest disadvantage of Yin Chu is excessive calmness at inappropriate times. In this case, calmness did not let Yin Chu go. She patted Yin Yulan on the shoulder and said, instead of trying to comfort me here, you might as well go back to the laboratory and find Professor Tao's papers over the years and read more. Faced with her best friend who ruined the mood, the only thing Yin Yulan could do was roll her eyes. Although she was very dissatisfied with her best friend's behavior that ruined the mood, Yin Yulan did not dare to slack off on the task assigned to her by her best friend. While busy with various experiments in the laboratory, she also had to study Professor Tao Bixi's papers over the years. Yin Yulan felt that it was really too difficult. But this behavior fell into the eyes of others, especially Professor Tao Bixi, and became one of the manifestations of hard work. This made Yin Yulan inadvertently gain a lot of goodwill. This is a case of planting flowers intentionally but failing to grow flowers, planting willows unintentionally and growing willows. You don't know until you see it, and you'll be shocked when you see it. Professor Tao Bixi's number of papers is so high that it far exceeds that of most professors in the Alliance, and is almost the same as Li Bengxia, a big man who has been doing pharmaceutical research for half his life. In the most productive year, Professor Tao Bixi published 8 papers independently. Moreover, there is not much connection between the various research data in the 8 papers. No wonder there are rumors that Professor Tao Bixi is suspected of usurping the results of laboratory researchers. Feelings all come from this. When classmate Yin Yulan was obsessed with Professor Tao Bixi's papers and couldn't extricate herself, Yin Chu led a new round of participating teams and once again embarked on the journey of the Alliance military quality competition. This time, the competition venue was still arranged in the Savage Star region. Yin Chu, who has a natural advantage, led a completely unfamiliar team to pass 5 levels and kill 6 generals, and narrowly brought back the championship trophy. This time, Yin Yulan did not go to the port to welcome her back victorious. Because, Yin Yulan, who was obsessed with thesis, had completely forgotten that she had a best friend. Until Yin Chu once again exchanged the trophy for the first-class collective merit and 10,000 credit points, and until Yin Chu once again left the Alliance Military Academy, Yin Yulan still could not remember her best friend. It was not until Yin Yulan finally remembered that she had a best friend that the winter vacation was about to begin. After reading all of Tao Bixi's papers, Yin Yulan finally had a deep understanding of the professor she followed. This professor, who was not good at speaking, had always focused on how to overcome genetic defects in her early research. She had been studying for more than 6 years. Moreover, in most of the papers she wrote, there was another name similar to hers, Tao Qingxi. But during the graduation internship, Professor Tao Bixi's research direction actually changed. From how to overcome genetic defects to how to overcome genetic mutations. Although only 2 words were changed, the research direction was different, and it could even be said to be a world of difference. And that similar name never appeared in Tao Bixi's papers again. Or maybe, Tao Bixi used the word research object to hide her deeply. Tao Bixi hid too well, even Yin Yulan, an expert, could hardly find a trace between the lines. This was also the most productive period for Tao Bixi. If all her experiments were not done by others, then Tao Bixi would spend at least 18 hours a day doing experiments during this period. In the remaining 6 hours, she had to organize data, analyze data, and write papers. The picture was so beautiful that Yin Yulan felt a headache just thinking about it. But even with such serious efforts, Tao Bixi could not wake up her dear sister. On the contrary, the oily-haired olive-field classmate may have come into contact with Professor Tao Bixi and improved some of his genetic problems, or defects. So, the reason why Master Peng Kaiden was sent to the Alliance Military Academy was to solve the genetic problems similar to olive-field? Think about Peng Kaiden's arrogant and respectful attitude, and then think about how he found Anna Smith and tried to steal Tao Bixi's girlfriend. Yin Yulan felt that this guy was either crazy or was rejected by Professor Tao Bixi. Based on Yin Yulan's understanding of the two people, she deeply felt that the latter possibility would be greater. So, Mr. Peng Kaiden, who has a lighter fragrance on his body, is actually much sicker? What about Yin Chu, who has no other smell on her body? She will only be in two extreme positions. Either, nothing. Or, she is terminally ill. Yin Yulan sincerely hopes that she will be the former. But in fact, she must prepare for the worst. This cognition made Yin Yulan not know how to face her bestie. Even if it was winter vacation, even if Yin Yulan stayed in Lingsu Star region with nothing to do, she still kept the unilateral silence on Yin Chu. When Yin Chu realized this, school was about to start. Looking at the snacks at hand, Yin Chu sighed silently and handed over the important task of delivering to the door to Uncle William. While Yin Yulan was relieved, he felt even more guilty about Yin Chu. At the beginning of the new semester, Professor Tao Bixi personally came forward and recruited a group of senior students to work as assistants in the laboratory. With the lessons learned from the past, this group of reserve assistant researchers were not poached by Anna Smith and Peng Kaiden, and most of them stayed. But after all, they had never been in the same boat, and the one who is close to Professor Tao Bixi was far less than the 4th grade junior Yin Yulan. There must be emotions. But Yin Yulan didn't care at all. She didn't care about other people's eyes, and was keen on the game of pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Yin Yulan had a lot of fun playing the role, and Fang Boi let her go. As long as it didn't delay the research, Fang Boi would not interfere with her little bit of bad taste. However, seeing that Yin Yulan's project had produced results, while the newcomers were still stuck in the bottleneck without knowing it, Fang Boi finally couldn't sit still. After giving both sides a slap on the wrist, he sent Yin Yulan away to write a report. When the group of seniors finally realized that something was wrong, the results of Yin Yulan's project had already been published. The seniors then realized that Yin Yulan was just teasing them. Seeing the seniors dislike her, but can't get rid of her, Yin Yulan finally laughed. Chapter 308 The Truth. Yin Yulan were exaggerated and reported to Professor Tao Bixi, but Professor Tao Bixi did not take any action. This is intriguing. From then on, the legend of Miss Yin Yulan was added to the world. According to the legend, this young lady was successful at a young age, ignored the hierarchy, relied on the power of others, and abused her senior brothers and sisters at will. Her deeds were too numerous to list. When she heard about her evil deeds, Miss Yin Yulan was completely shocked. What is 3 people make a tiger? She has lived for so many years, and today, she finally understands it. It is impossible to explain it. It is impossible to explain it clearly in this lifetime. No matter how unwilling Yin Yulan is, she can only pinch her nose and admit it. Unexpectedly, Fang Boi came to comfort her for this matter. Student Yin Yulan had to rethink whether her judgment of Fang Boi was too one-sided. After all, after knowing each other for so long, the most outrageous thing she had seen Fang Boi do was just knocking the paralysis potion off her hand, and he refused to admit it and let her take the blame. No. The one who made her take the blame was Professor Tao Bixi. Fang Boi didn't say a word from beginning to end. Yin Yulan felt that it was necessary for him to have a good talk with his senior. In fact, Yin Yulan really guessed it right. Don't look at Fang Boi pretending to be profound on weekdays. In fact, he is just a naive person who knows nothing except pharmacy. Yin Yulan tried to trick him, but this guy actually blushed and told the truth. It turned out that this guy was not only naive, but also very curious. I heard that Yin Yulan could make concentrated potions with a concentration of up to 10 times, so I came to meet this genius little sister. Who knew that Yin Yulan's little sister had already dug a pit waiting for him? Yin Yulan calculated it deliberately, but Fang Boi didn't mean to, so the paralysis potion was accidentally knocked over. The paralysis potion with 10 times the concentration is naturally powerful. This carelessness turned the entire potion system over. Legend has it that when the senior Fangboy was unconscious, he had a smile on his face, as if he had succeeded in his conspiracy. That is absolutely a rumor. Because when Fangboy knocked over the potion, he was so scared that he couldn't laugh. Fangboy, who was at a loss, found Taubixi to find a solution for him as soon as he woke up. Professor Taubixi was not a person who was good at playing tricks, but for Fangboy's reputation, which could not be worse, he still bit the bullet. In order to prevent the school investigation team from exposing it, he also asked his researchers to do enough preparations in advance. Then he ran to Yin Yulan with exquisite makeup and threatened and lured her. After hearing this explanation, Yin Yulan, suddenly I think Professor Taubixi and senior brother Fangboy are a little cute. What should I do? Then why are you telling me the truth now? Fangboy scratched his head and laughed dryly. Because, I think you and I are the same kind of people. Yin Yulan, I'm not. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. I'm not like you, such a fool. Yin Yulan completely forgot that the guy in front of him was a genius who could speak at the age of half a year, recite 300 Tang poems at the age of 2, read the Encyclopedia of the Alliance Star Plants and Star Beasts at the age of 7, was admitted to the Alliance Military Academy at the age of 13, and studied pharmacy with Professor Taubixi at the age of 16. In a sense, Fangboy admitted that he and Yin Yulan were the same kind of people, which was a compliment to Yin Yulan. Anyway, the two people who didn't think the same fell into an awkward silence. Yin Yulan finally understood why Fangboy pretended to be unfathomable. In fact, this guy is too bad at talking. Instead of saying too much and letting others misunderstand, it's better to just pretend to be aloof. This kind of person is not worth your anger. Anyway, if you are angry, he doesn't know where he is wrong. Yin Yulan worked hard for a while and finally swallowed a bad temper in her heart. What else can she do when she encounters such a funny professor and senior brother? Of course, admit it. As your direct junior sister, I have to tell you seriously. Please maintain your personality of the cold emperor and don't collapse. For physical work such as communicating with people, leave it to me, your junior sister, or other professionals. Fangboy felt that Yin Yulan meant to dislike him. But he had no evidence. He could only look at Yin Yulan pitifully, until he saw that Yin Yulan couldn't bear it and let him go. Afterwards, Yin Yulan accidentally mentioned this matter to Yin Chu and couldn't help shouting that he was deceived. And Yin Chu just added the second half of the sentence lightly, consciously and voluntarily. Of course, this is all later. After Professor Taubixi and senior brother Fangboy revealed their true nature to Yin Yulan, they treated this guy as their own. Fangboy followed Yin Yulan's teachings carefully. If he could keep quiet, he would not speak. If he had to talk about something, he would definitely blame Yin Yulan. Since then, the reputation of Yin Yulan has been declining day by day, and gradually it has become infamous. The term flatterer and traitor is completely tailor-made for Yin Yulan. Those who are far away in Lingsu Star region, after hearing about Yin Yulan's reputation, could not help but send letters of condolences and ask about this matter. Only Yin Chu firmly believed that Yin Yulan was always Yin Yulan. How could a guy who was brilliant when given some snacks become black-hearted after entering a laboratory? That laboratory was recommended by Grandpa Li Bangsha. That was even more impossible. However, Yin Chu was sure that Yin Yulan must be hiding something from him. After all, not asking me for snacks for half a year has seriously violated her nature as a foodie. You can't ask. At least, she can't. But she is not fighting alone. If she can't do it, can't she ask for help? The best candidate is naturally Mr. Li Bangsha, who recommended Yin Yulan to Professor Taubixi. Everyone has weaknesses. Yin Chu only used a little bit of potion materials in exchange for Mr. Li Bangsha's special assistance. Mr. Li Bangsha is different from Taubixi and Fangboy. The old man is smart and good at talking. Without Yin Chu making more suggestions, he quickly got the words out of Yin Yulan. After knowing the reason why Yin Yulan was hiding from Yin Chu, Mr. Li Bangsha was silent. No wonder others say that curiosity kills the cat. Such a cruel truth, let alone a little girl like Yin Yulan can't say it. Even if he is old and smart, he doesn't know how to say it more appropriately. Chapter 309. No matter how cunning a fox is, it cannot escape the hunter's clutches. Moreover, Mr. Li Bangsha swallowed a bait thrown by Yin Chu, so he could not escape from Yin Chu's clutches. Yin Chu not only has a better art of speaking than Mr. Li Bangsha, but also has first-class reasoning ability. Mr. Li Bangxia only stammered a little bit, and Yin Chu guessed the whole thing from the details. While Mr. Li Bangxia was relieved, he could not help but reiterate again and again, "You made this inference yourself, I didn't say anything." This appearance of taking advantage of others and still acting cute made Yin Chu laugh. "I'm too smart and I can predict the future. It has nothing to do with anyone, okay?" Mr. Li Bangxia nodded again and again. "I'm satisfied that you have such awareness." Looking at Mr. Li Bangxia's shameless appearance, Yin Chu silently rolled her eyes and turned around to make snacks for her best friend who had worked hard and had her reputation damaged. After receiving the snack gift package delivered by Yin Chu, Yin Yulan felt particularly complicated. After hesitating between confession and concealment for a whole half-month, Yin Yulan ate all the snacks and did not come to a specific conclusion. So, the ostrich Yin Yulan was once again addicted to the experiment and could not extricate himself. Regarding this guy's self-deception, Yin Chu just smiled. "If you see through it but don't say it, you can still be friends. What's more, someone is for his own good, the spirit is commendable, the courage is commendable." Yin Chu decided to give this guy a few more months to prepare. When she appears at the Alliance Military Academy again when the fall semester starts, if this guy doesn't confess to her, don't blame her, as a best friend, for being rude to her. Seeing that the summer vacation is approaching day by day, Yin Yulan still has no intention of being honest. Yin Chu is not in a hurry at all, but old man Li Bangxia can't sit still. The old man had video chatted with Yin Yulan every other day, trying to persuade this stubborn girl to confess to Yin Chu. I don't know if it was the old man Li Bangxia's words that worked, or if Yin Yulan finally figured out the truth that sticking your head out is also a knife, and shrinking your head is also a knife. On the last day of summer vacation, this girl finally came to Yin Chu hesitantly and stammered about the things she had concealed from Yin Chu for a year. Seeing Yin Yulan's cautious eyes looking at her, Yin Chu laughed instead of getting angry. "Look at your useless look. Am I the kind of person who can't even stand this little stimulation?" Yin Yulan sat down next to Yin Chu and laughed dryly. "Isn't it me who is confused because of my concern? Since it is because of my concern, let's put the matter of settling accounts aside for now. I warn you, there won't be a next time." Yin Yulan nodded and stretched out her hand to Yin Chu. Yin Chu slapped her palm unhappily. Yin Yulan didn't get angry, and kept following behind Yin Chu in this posture. Wherever Yin Chu went, she went there. Unable to resist the pestering skills of Yin Yulan, the food that Yin Chu deducted from 2 spaces finally fell into the hands of Yin Yulan. The 2 sisters who restored diplomatic relations returned to the campus of the Alliance Military Academy on the deadline for registration. As senior students, the sisters looked at the vigorous candidates on the playground, and their hearts were calm. But the group of candidates on the playground saw the sisters, and their hearts were extremely surging. The candidates in groups of 3 or 5, 80% of their eyes were on the sisters. For this situation, the 2 sisters could only smile helplessly. Those who should train continue to train, and those who should do experiments continue to do experiments. This, perhaps, is the trouble of becoming famous. Although Yin Chu failed as an undercover agent, she was very successful as a person. From the port to the training room, she met her acquaintances everywhere. Most of these people were Yin Chu's comrades in arms during the previous Alliance military quality competitions. When the competition was about to begin, everyone rushed to punch in. Ignore it. People will say that you are arrogant and don't understand the ways of the world. Pay attention to it. Your face will be frozen by your smile. Yin Chu has never felt that a road of less than 1 kilometer is so long. When she arrived at the dormitory of Mr. He Qingfeng, Yin Chu felt that her face was frozen by her smile. Looking at Yin Chu, who kept rubbing his face, Mr. He Qingfeng rarely showed a mischievous smile on his face. "Little girl, you've made progress. The calls are coming one after another, and you can hear the noise from a long distance. I'm afraid that ordinary stars can't compare to this momentum." Yin Chu rubbed his temples and smiled bitterly. "Don't tease me, old man. I'm also wondering in my heart. It's been a long time since we last met. There wasn't such a big scene last year. You came for the Alliance military quality competition. You shouldn't have come to me. It's much safer to go to Jin Ruyan and teacher Pang than to me. You have been in school for a long time, and you must know more than me. Otherwise, can you analyze it for me?" Old man He Qingfeng shook his head. "Why bother to guess something that you will know sooner or later? If I have that time, I might as well have a drink. By the way, you didn't forget to bring me wine." Looking at the way old man He King Fang was greedy for wine, Yin Chu couldn't help shaking his head. 20 jars of rice wine were lined up in a row. Old man He King Fang smelled the faint aroma of the wine and squinted his eyes happily. Seeing the old man like that, Yin Chu couldn't help but remind him, "Take it easy, old man, alcohol is harmful to your health." Old man He King Fang couldn't help but curl his lips. "My body, how can I not know? This little rice wine is not enough for my meal." Yin Chu raised his eyebrows. "Anyway, I only brewed 20 jars of rice wine. If you drink it all today, you'll have to hold the empty jars for the rest of the year." Old man He King Fang looked at Yin Chu and said pitifully, "Can't you be flexible?" Yin Chu smiled coldly. "Do you want it or not?" Old man He King Fang quickly put away his little expression, gritted his teeth and said, 20 jars is 20 jars, it's better than getting nothing. This time next year, little girl, don't forget to send me another 20 jars. Yin Chu rubbed his temples and nodded. "Got it. I won't give the glutton in your stomach the opportunity to make trouble." Old man He King Fang patted Yin Chu on the shoulder and said with a smile, "You still understand me." Chapter 310 You have the final say. Yin Chu's wine is not given for free. Old man He King Fang can't do things like eating and not working. Therefore, after old man He King Fang appeased the alcohol bug in his stomach, he still gave Yin Chu some serious advice. That's the tale of a scorpion poisonous, unique treatment. Not a direct disciple, but better than a direct disciple. There are countless jealous people in the alliance. It's just He King Fin. Not many people know about him, and those who know him well naturally know that he is a stubborn donkey who won't leave even if he is driven away. No one dared to come in front of him to cause this bad luck, so there was no trouble. But this group of people were not so polite to Yin Chu. Her group of comrades in arms who had participated in the previous alliance military quality competitions together could run to Yin Chu to punch in. This group of people claimed to be in a high position and had power, so naturally they would not care about Yin Chu's thoughts. The 360-degree surveillance of Yin Chu was carried out so that he could learn from him. He never thought about Yin Chu's feelings. Yin Chu was annoyed by this group of people. He didn't even stay in the training room. He directly occupied the dormitory of Mr. He King Fin. In this way, he got some peace, but Mr. He King Fang laughed at him for a long time. In this way, Yin Chu was invited out of the training room by the school leaders after hiding for only a week. The excuses were ready, saying that they were discussing the alliance military quality competition. Yin Chu was angry but couldn't get angry. Suddenly, he understood why Marshal Black was so helpless with the Blackwater Army. If he couldn't even manage the Alliance Military Academy, how could the people he taught not have their own little thoughts? If people's hearts were scattered, it would be difficult to lead the team. If you want to change the atmosphere of the Blackwater Army, the first step is to cure it from the root. If the Union Military Academy and the Blackwater Army can support each other like the Blue Sea Mecha Academy and the Expeditionary Force, the Blackwater Army should be able to go further. Perhaps, she could suggest to George that after graduation, Yin Yulan should directly enter the Union Military Academy and hold up the banner of the Union Military Academy, and the husband and wife should follow suit. Yin Chu touched her chin, and the more she thought about it, the more she felt that her suggestion was very constructive. Those high-ranking officials who thought they could flatten Yin Chu didn't know that this guy had already sentenced them to death in his heart because of such a small matter. Moreover, the executioner might be another little girl that they didn't even notice. Of course, whether this thing would succeed or not is still another matter. However, there are only a few people in this world who want to stop Yin Chu. Unfortunately, at this moment, none of them are in the Union Military Academy. Before Yin Chu even walked into the principal's office, he had already communicated his plan with George through the optical brain. Not only George, but also the entire Black family is more or less dissatisfied with the current situation of the Alliance Military Academy. George showed great interest in Yin Chu's proposal. The tacit understanding between the two has not faded due to the reduced contact in recent years. As soon as Yin Chu sat down in front of Zhou Ding, George had already come up with a preliminary framework. After all, Yin Chu and Yin Yulan are less than 2 years away from graduation. Since there is a plan to send Yin Yulan to the throne of the president of the Alliance Military Academy, some preliminary work must be prepared. The sooner the better. As for the extremely important Alliance military quality competition mentioned by Zhou Ding, for Yin Chu, it is just a game that he has to participate in. Zhou Ding talked a lot and drank 3 cups of tea, but Yin Chu was still calm and said nothing. Looking at Yin Chu, who was not moved by soft or hard words, Zhou Ding couldn't help but pinch his nose and let himself go. Student Yin Chu, I know that you have good physical fitness and strong professional ability. You are a good seedling who can stand on your own wherever you are. I have already prepared the recommendation letter for the Blackwater Army for you. However, a single thread cannot make a line, and a single tree cannot make a forest. You alone cannot win the championship of the Alliance military quality competition. Listen to the words and listen to the tone. Yin Chu only heard this and knew that the thing that will be known sooner or later in Mr. He King Fang's mouth had finally come. So what? Thinking of what he wanted Yin Chu to do, even if Zhou Ding was thick-skinned, he couldn't help blushing at this moment, and put his thumb and index finger together, and then slightly pulled them apart. During the competition, can you give other students a little more opportunity to perform? Yin Chu couldn't help but hang a hint of sarcasm at the corner of his mouth. I think they have a lot of opportunities to perform. Yin Yuan, Jin Ruan, Bai Ruo, Yin Chu counted them one by one with his fingers. The harder Yin Chu counted, the uglier Zhou Ding's face looked. Finally, Zhou Ding couldn't help but yelled, enough. Yin Chu lowered his head and sneered for a moment, then looked at Zhou Ding with a bewildered face. Is there anything wrong with what I said? Not only was it wrong, it was totally wrong. Look at the people Yin Chu counted, not a single combat professional, and they were all people of humble origins. Nowadays, the poor people in the entire Alliance have set their sights on these non-combat professions and the Alliance Military Academy. These poor guys have to scrape together their tuition fees, not to mention any oil and water. In the past 2 years, his income has shrunk by nearly 1/3. He wanted to get rid of Yin Chu and let those brothers who had been eyeing the Alliance military quality competition for a long time take a place. In the end, there was no result. 2 rounds of travel or something. It was simply embarrassing. With no other choice, he could only get Yin Chu back. This time, there was a ranking, but there was not a single close-up shot of those relatives. Facing the anger of the uncles, Zhou Ding's old waist almost broke. He reluctantly found this little girl to discuss, but this girl actually gave him a pig's nose with an onion, pretending to be an elephant. Zhou Ding was furious. You must give these people more opportunities to perform. Otherwise, the recommendation letter from the Blackwater Army. To be honest, Yin Chu really didn't like the recommendation letter from the Blackwater Army. However, if she didn't vent this anger, she was afraid that she would not be able to sleep well for a long time. Give these people more opportunities to perform, right? Yin Chu looked at those names and smiled slightly. You are the principal, you have the final say. Seeing Yin Chu compromise, Zhou Ding smiled with satisfaction. And Yin Chu, who walked out of the principal's office with his hands behind his back, also smiled. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311, Revengeance Xiaoqiu. Those who bullied Yin Chu didn't have a good life. However, in the territory of the Alliance Military Academy, Yin Chu still gave face to Zhou Ding and did not make things difficult for the brothers designated by Principal Zhou. He even asked Jin Ruan to quietly open a back door for these people. These brothers thought that Yin Chu was afraid of them, and they were very proud for a while. Only Mr. He King Feng, who knew the nature of Yin Chu, drank his own wine and silently sentenced these brothers to death with a reprieve. From then on, the participants who were training at the same time on the training star were divided into 2 groups. Brothers and others. Others received training all day and night according to the requirements of Yin Chu and never stopped. But these brothers came when they wanted and left when they wanted. They did the training projects if they wanted, and didn't do them if they didn't want to. As time went on, the physical fitness of others and brothers gradually widened, and the relationship became more and more distant, so brothers panicked. It was impossible to bow their heads. It's impossible in this lifetime. But it's still possible to accept the training obediently and stop being picky. Seeing that they are not hopeless, Yin Chu's expression is a little better. However, it's only a little bit. It's impossible to expect Yin Chu to take them to play. It's impossible in this lifetime. However, Yin Chu is a person who keeps her word. Since she promised Zhou Ding to give them more opportunities to perform, she will never break her promise. So, at the beginning of the preliminary round, Yin Chu handed the most important work to these brothers. Unexpectedly, these brothers who were not optimistic about everyone, with their temperament of stirring up trouble and hating chickens and dogs, actually completed the important task of bay quite well. However, after the performance was too good, it brought a little sequelae. Let alone participating in the semi-finals, these brothers couldn't even get up after the finals. Seeing that the game was over and they were about to return, these brothers still couldn't get up. Yin-Chu perfectly displayed the captain's temperament. With a wave of her hand, she lifted herself and the treatment cabin onto the starship, and watched her teammates leave with the trophy. As for herself, the planet where the competition was held was quite close to the Blue Sea Star. She could drive the mecha over there, and there was no need for Principal Zhou to worry. Zhou Ding, who broke his waist again, stood firmly at the port, waiting for the contestants to return. However, this time his expression was obviously worse than the previous times. Looking at Zhou Ding's face, and then looking at the treatment cabins that the team members had finally pulled off the starship, Pang Lei immediately understood that Yin-Chu would not return to the Alliance Military Academy with a team, but chose to drive the mecha to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. Even if it was more energy-consuming, and not so safe, it was better than facing Zhou Ding's stinky face. However, Pang Lei didn't know what Zhou Ding would think when he looked at the golden trophy and the participating team without a captain, and whether he would get a heart attack. Sure enough, the first thing Zhou Ding said was, "Where's Yin-Chu?" Pang Lei pursed his lips and whispered. The high blue star where the competition is held is only 357,000 kilometers away from the Blue Sea Star. Captain Yin-Chu didn't want to cause trouble to the school, so he volunteered to drive the mecha back to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy to report. Now, he should have arrived at a Blue Sea Star. These two simple sentences made Zhou Ding feel suffocated. He raised his hand and tugged at his collar. When it was a little loose, he waved his hand with difficulty and asked the dean to complete the process of welcoming the participating teams on his behalf. Yin Yulan, who followed Zhou Ding to the port eagerly, was relieved when he saw that there was no familiar figure in the team. Seeing Zhou Ding's aggrieved look, Yin Yulan, who knew the whole story, felt very happy. If you want to be honored in front of others, you must suffer behind others. You don't work hard in training, but you still want to be famous? It's not impossible. Compared with these people, they have nothing to be dissatisfied with. I just don't know if these people lying there are convinced or not. Looking at Principal Zhou, they are probably not convinced. I don't know what kind of trouble this guy will make. If the trouble is too much, let Yin-Chu disappear. Anyway, the appearance of Yin-Chu was just to protect her safety. If it's gone, it's gone. Yin Yulan is very open-minded. She quickly turned on her light brain and sent a message to her childhood sweetheart who she hadn't contacted for a long time. The message came back quickly, but it was different from what Yin Yulan thought. There was no agreement or opposition, but a general framework of a plan. Yin Yulan only took a glance, then quickly turned off the light brain and hid her hand. It was not until she returned to the dormitory, closed the doors and windows, and made sure there were no surveillance cameras that she reopened it and read it word by word. The plan framework sent by George was exactly the one proposed by Yin-Chu. The core content is, let Yin Yulan become the dean of the Alliance Military Academy, and replace Zhou Ding, whom she despised from the bottom of her heart. It is easy to drive Zhou Ding away. But it is a crazy plan to let her, a newly graduated student, quickly become the principal of a military academy. Yin Yulan did not mean to reject it completely. Others may not know the abilities of her childhood sweetheart and best friend, but she knows it very well. Besides, this is not a plan that can be accomplished overnight, but a 10-year infiltration plan. According to the route set by George, it is not impossible for her to sit in the position of the dean of the Alliance Military Academy. Even if something goes wrong in the middle, as long as George and Yin-Chu are there, Yin Yulan feels that they can guide the whole thing to the path they want. Since her childhood sweetheart and best friend trust her so much and believe that she can be a good principal of a military academy. Since, in the life goal, it is not so difficult to accept to have more students all over the world. Since everyone needs a school like Blue Ocean Mecha Academy that recruits talents regardless of their background, then she would give it a try. After all, it was just a vest. If she lost, she would not suffer any loss. As for winning, it would definitely be a blessing for the Blackwater Army and the Alliance. She had no reason to refuse, both publicly and privately. Then, let's go crazy. After all, someone said, if you don't go crazy when you are young, Yin Yulan deleted the framework of the plan and typed a word, OK. Chapter 312 Bottom line. After all, she is the daughter of the old fox Qin Mian, so classmate Yin Yulan is not stupid. It would be fine if she didn't agree, but since she had already agreed to George, classmate Yin Yulan naturally took positive action. She changed her previous mischievous temper and became mature and steady. Although she still had that retro and old-fashioned mushroom head and wore that slightly loose black protective suit, her voice gradually became louder and her eyes became much firmer. Professor Taobixi and Fang Bui were the kind of people who turned a deaf ear to the outside world and only wanted to do research. Yin Yulan knew the two of them better than the average person. It was not easy for her to stand up in Professor Taobixi's laboratory. However, in less than half a year, Yin Yulan had firmly established herself as the third in command of Professor Taobixi's laboratory and became an absolute power figure in the laboratory. Others might not know about the big and small things in the laboratory, but Yin Yulan must know about them. Even the big and small things in the pharmacy department of the Alliance Military Academy could not be hidden from her eyes. Although she was busy fighting for power, planting spies, and winning people's hearts, Yin Yulan did not forget the foundation of her livelihood. In the past 6 months, she has not stopped the projects in her hands. Although the number of research results is not as good as last year, it is much higher than that of other experimenters. Of course, the quality is even more incomparable. Many people have seen the changes in Yin Yulan, and many of them have criticized her in their hearts, but without evidence, the criticism can only be criticism in their hearts. These gossips can't stop Yin Yulan from making rapid progress. After taking over the pharmacy department, Yin Yulan extended his evil hand to other departments of the Alliance Military Academy. The first to bear the brunt are the logistics department and the command department. After all, it is easier to start with acquaintances. Bai Ruo, who stayed at the school to teach, and Jin Ruan, who is about to join the Blackwater Army, are the best helpers of Yin Yulan. With the help of George and Yin Chu, the two comrades in arms closely united around Yin Yulan, following the lead of this seemingly inconspicuous little girl. Yin Yulan, who is even more powerful, spent another half a year to finally spread an airtight network in the Alliance Military Academy. Although it could not affect the operation of the Alliance Military Academy, any disturbance in the Alliance Military Academy could not escape the eyes of Yin Yulan. When Yin Chu had to return to the Alliance Military Academy, he saw Yin Yulan's ability and couldn't help but marvel at it, saying that he had underestimated her in the past. Listening to Yin Chu's endless praise, Yin Yulan blushed with shame and hid behind her. As soon as the two sisters started to make a fuss, Zhou Ding, who received the letter, sent Miss Wan Qing, the assistant to the principal, to invite someone. Although Wan Qing was polite, the sisters knew Zhou Ding's character very well and didn't take Wan Qing's words seriously at all. Principal Zhou has two hobbies: first, credit points. Second, face. The so-called bitch and stand-up guy is basically tailor-made for Principal Zhou. We have seen many people who can cater to Principal Zhou's preferences and rise to prominence. We have also seen many tragic experiences of people who disobey Principal Zhou and make him lose credit points or face. But like Yin Chu, who made Principal Zhou lose credit points and face, and made Zhou Ding so angry that his face turned blue, and can still get away with it. That's really a scorpion tail, unique. After finally waiting for Yin Chu to return to the Alliance Military Academy, Zhou Ding can let her go easily? It's just a joke. If you don't let out the anger you have been holding back for nearly a year, can you still be called Zhou Ding? Yin Chu is aware of this situation, but she has not forgotten the proper etiquette. She slowly stood up, straightened her clothes, and made a gesture of invitation. Please help Assistant Wan to come here in person. Wan Qing was surprised by the calmness of the woman, and could not help but whisper a reminder, Principal Zhou is not in a good mood today. Before the words fell, a trace of annoyance appeared on Wan Qing's face. Although it is not known whether this remark was intentional or unintentional. But Yin Chu still thanked Miss Wan Qing and stuffed a large bag of Lingsu Star region specialties into her. After a few exchanges, the two of them became more familiar with each other. The two of them talked about irrelevant things, and the principal's office was approaching. Wan Qing, who had been talking and laughing all the way, actually shut up at this moment. Yin Chu did not force it, and knocked on the door of Zhou Ding's office with a smile. Zhou Ding did not say anything, and Yin Chu actually turned around and left. Others may not know what Zhou Ding is, but Wan Qing, as Zhou Ding's assistant, is quite clear. If she let Yin Chu go today, Zhou stingy look will definitely make her more than a year younger. Yin Chu provoked Zhou, but she could still walk away. If she provoked Zhou, that scene was too beautiful, she couldn't imagine it at all. Wang Qing tightly grasped Yin Chu's sleeves and said all the nice things to keep her. Looking at Wang Qing's pale face, Yin Chu pouted and stayed reluctantly. Then, took out the game tablet and played happily. When she was tired and sleepy, she didn't forget to take a nutrient, physical recovery potion, etc. When Zhou felt that his power was almost effective and finally opened the door and walked out, Yin Chu classmates' mental training had just ended. Looking at Yin Chu holding the nutrient and playing the game tablet, Zhou was so angry that he fell backwards. Yin Chu, do you take me, the principal, seriously? To be honest, definitely not. But the student status is in someone else's hands. Even if it's just a vest. But what if one day it's exposed? Black history and the like, can't be left. The truth cannot be told, and it is impossible in this lifetime. What are you talking about, Principal Zhou? You are our guiding light and the helmsman of navigation. If the Alliance Military Academy does not have you, it would be like the sky without the sun. When it comes to the ability to lie with open eyes, Wang Qing has never been defeated by anyone. But after hearing the remarks of Yin Chu, Wang Qing was convinced. He was full of admiration. The person who wanted to leave at the slightest disagreement can now say such a rainbow fart in a high-sounding manner. It turns out that people can be so shameless. She is still too young and has too little experience. It is said that the flattery training class is still recruiting students, and she feels that it is necessary for her to sign up. It does not require how good the effect is, Yin Chu will do. Did you see that their difficult Principal Zhou's face has turned from cloudy to sunny after listening to this fresh and unworldly rainbow fart? Chapter 313 Goodbye Zileman. Wang Qing was actually wrong. The reason why Yin Chu was able to carve out a way out for Zhou was not just because of her flattery. Her biggest reliance was her unparalleled strength, the strength of leading the participating team to win the championship in the Alliance military quality competition time and time again. This irreplaceability was the fundamental reason why Zhou tolerated her. Don't hit a smiling person. What's more, it was someone you had to rely on. Since Yin Chu handed Zhou a ladder, Zhou could only take advantage of the situation and use the donkey to go downhill. The teacher and the student tacitly revealed the past and started a new discussion on this year's Alliance military quality competition. To the surprise of Yin Chu, Zhou did not embarrass Yin Chu like last time, and it could even be said that he was very tolerant and completely let go of Yin Chu. Such tolerance was not like Zhou style. Yin Chu couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. When Jin Ruan asked her about the process of this competition, Yin Chu did not answer, but asked a completely unrelated question: which places meet the requirements of the Alliance military quality competition, but are least likely to be selected? Jin Ruan was stunned by the question. Although she was confused, she still held back, quickly calculated, and reported the top 10 addresses and reasons to Yin Chu. Among them, there was actually a place that Yin Chu was familiar with, the planet Zileman. As for the reason for being selected, it was naturally too close to mutant creatures and the risk factor was too high. Jin Ruan read quickly, but Yin Chu was slowly savoring it. When Jin Ruan finished reading, Yin Chu sighed and sneered. On this day last year, the two of us only had the right to make suggestions, not the right to make decisions. This year, we will be the little devils. This world is really wonderful. Jin Ruan looked at Yin Chu in disbelief, and asked happily, you mean, this time the contestants will be decided by ourselves? Yin Chu nodded silently. Looking at Yin Chu's face and thinking about the question she asked herself, Jin Ruan's joy disappeared. But, what's wrong? Yin Chu sneered. Last year, I didn't say anything, but people stuffed 6 ancestors in for me. Now, these 6 ancestors have successfully gone to the places they want to go by promoting the idea of sacrificing the self for the sake of the overall situation. But Principal Zhou didn't strike while the iron is hot, and pushed 10 or 8 of them in. It's not just inappropriate, it's really inappropriate. Jin Ruan sighed. After you said that, I came to my senses. The group of people around Master Peng Kaiun didn't jump 3 feet high when they saw you come back. It's quite wrong, yes. How can you miss Master Peng Kaiun in the Alliance military quality competition? Ever since classmate Yin Yulan made a name for himself in the Alliance military quality competition, this guy has been particularly active in every Alliance military quality competition. Even when Yin Chu was away for exchange and study, he successfully saw power and usurped the throne. Unfortunately, the team led by Master Peng was eliminated after 2 rounds. Even more regrettable is that after Yin Chu successfully returned, there was no place for him in the participating team. Since then, Master Peng Kaiden has been fighting with a Yin Chu. As long as Yin Chu has a little movement, Master Peng will immediately become a disciplinary inspection committee member, ready to send Yin Chu to the headlines of the campus network. Now, Yin Chu has caused such a sensation, but Master Peng has not made any movement. This is too wrong. Based on the principle of Master Peng is quiet, he must be holding back a big move. Jin Ruian offered infinite doubts. Yin Chu sneered, "That's right. It seems that it's not that the enemy is too cruel, but that I am too careless. However, what Peng Kaiden can know." Jin Ruian laughed, "I dare not tell others, but your Miss Eleanor will definitely know it." Yin Chu patted Jin Ruian and said unhappily, "Don't talk nonsense. If senior brother Demai hears it, he will make trouble for me." Jin Ruian did not agree with this. "I don't know if senior brother Demai will settle accounts with you if he knows it. But if senior sister Eleanor hears what you said, she will definitely rush over to settle accounts." After saying that, Jin Ruian did not forget to nod affirmatively. This makes sense. Yin Chu was speechless. Because Miss Eleanor is such a clingy and unreasonable little goblin. However, this little goblin is really the best way for Yin Chu to inquire about the news without revealing his identity. Yin Chu dialed Irina's computer number in front of Jin Ruian. After a lot of nonsense from Irina, Yin Chu finally got to the point. Miss Irina is so smart. As soon as Yin Chu started talking, Miss Irina came to her senses. Without Yin Chu explaining in detail, she uttered a place name, Zilliman. These 3 words successfully confirmed Yin Chu's guess and also successfully changed Jin Ruian's face. Zilliman was on the front line not long ago. Jin Ruian's throat tightened and his voice was a little floating. Miss Irina, who always had a bad temper, did not get angry because of Jin Ruian's doubts. Because when she received the news, she herself was a little bit unbelievable. The military held 5 voting meetings for this matter. I was standing outside the door during the last vote. If this is the case, the truth of this matter is beyond doubt. Compared to Jin Ruian's distraught, Yin Chu was exceptionally calm. If this is the case, then the selection criteria of previous years cannot be used. Jin Ruian looked at Yin Chu in disbelief. "You still want to participate in the competition in this situation?" Yin Chu clicked his tongue. "As a reserve member of the Blackwater Army, you should have the awareness that a soldier should have. For example, soldiers do not have the right to choose their missions." Jin Ruian's pretty face turned red when she said that, and she lowered her head and dared not speak. Instead, it was Miss Elena on the other side of the light brain who laughed strangely. "Your awareness is really high. I just wonder how many people have the same awareness as you." Yin Chu pondered for a moment before speaking. "If we can get a few places from the Blackwater Army, we should be able to recruit them all. Although the Blackwater Army's reserve quota is not as good as that of the Expeditionary Force, it is also something that everyone in the Alliance is eager to get." When Yin Chu said it so lightly, Jin Ruian and Miss Eleanor were deeply shocked. Chapter 314 Self-Recruitment. Although the Union Military Academy is the counterpart of the Blackwater Army, the Union Military Academy only has 20 recommended places each year. The remaining graduates will have to take the cruel Blackwater Army Reserve Selection Exam. Combat professionals have about a 50% chance of getting a reserve place. For non-combat professionals, the chance is as low as 8%. Now, Yin Chu, who has not even got a Blackwater Army Reserve place, proposed to use the Blackwater Army Reserve place as bait. Jin Ruian and Miss Elena only had one thought in their minds: is she crazy? Jin Ruian was fine, remembering the principle of seeing through but not speaking out, biting her lip and not speaking. But Miss Elena is not someone who can hide things. Thinking this in her heart, she couldn't help but blurt it out. Yin Chu raised her eyebrows and said nothing. After all, it's better to just do it than to say 1,000 words. Yin Chu just contacted George silently and told him the whole thing briefly. George had heard about the unreliable decision of the military. However, George did not think it was a completely bad thing. First of all, although Zilliman was still at frontline some time ago, it had been several months. Now, the Expeditionary Force has pushed the frontline forward 800,000 kilometers, and Zilliman has become a logistics supply base, which is far from dangerous. Secondly, military academy students must be physically and mentally prepared to become soldiers. If you don't even have the courage to face the battlefield, you can't become a real soldier. Based on these 2 points, George agreed with Yin Chu's approach of knowing there are tigers in the mountain, but going to the Tiger Mountain. But the Blackwater Army is not something he can decide on. George can only apply to the top, to be precise, Marshal Black and Comrade Kinmian. After 3 days of serious discussion, the application was approved. Yin Chu bypassed the Alliance Military Academy and countless school leaders and obtained the qualification to recruit 40 reservists for the Blackwater Army's 7th Army. When the commission was handed over to Yin Chu, the entire Alliance Military Academy was boiling. Everyone had to re-examine Yin Chu, the legendary orphan adopted by the Blackwater Army. What role does he play in the Blackwater Army? There are many discussions on the campus network, but unfortunately, no one can answer the questions of the poster and many people. The only thing that is certain is that there is candy to follow Yin Chu. The quota for the Alliance military quality competition is already in high demand, and the temptation of the Blackwater Army Reserve quota is definitely greater than the sum of 2. On the first day of Yin Chu's first independent recruitment of team members, a long queue formed on the playground. Yin Chu had to spend huge amounts of money to print a registration notice. Then he released his mecha and stuck the notice steadily on the fort of the mecha. Yin Chu's requirements for recruiting team members are not high, and he only slightly changed a few words in the notice for the Expeditionary Army to recruit reserve personnel. Once the registration notice in black and white was posted, more than half of the people were scared away. Looking at the backs of those fleeing in panic, Yin Chu couldn't help but curl his lips. Those who run away without even trying are not worth wasting her time. As for the remaining half, Yin Chu's face is much better. Pay the registration fee with one hand and get the number plate with the other. Please keep the number plate properly. No replacement will be given if it is lost, as long as they are willing to pay the registration fee. Even if there is suspicion of opportunism, Yin Chu is willing to give them a chance to fish in troubled waters. This is probably the charm of money. After collecting the credit points, he put away the table and pulled off the registration instructions on the face of the mecha. Comrade Yin Chu completed the first stage of recruiting team members independently. The chief examiner Comrade Yin Chu took a loudspeaker and promptly announced the latest notice on the playground. The preliminary competition will be officially held at 9 a.m. the day after tomorrow, September 8th, at the Training Star Gymnasium of the Alliance Military Academy. Applicants please attend on time with a number plate. No waiting after the time limit. Simple, rough, direct, but effective. In order to take care of everyone's emotions, Yin Chu did not forget to update this news on the campus network in a timely manner. The first and only message from classmate Yin Chu was fresh out of the oven. It quickly became a tourist spot for Yin Chu's fans. This was unexpected for classmate Yin Chu. However, the effect of the publicity was achieved, right? In fact, the preliminary round at 9 a.m. on September 8th attracted not only the registered contestants, but also nearly 2,000 onlookers. The gymnasium of the Training Star of the Union Military Academy was filled with the sound of gongs and drums, the blast of firecrackers, and the sea of people. It was like a small concert, which deeply shocked the inexperienced classmate Yin Chu. If she had known it would be like this, she should have set up a card to sell tickets. How many credit points did she lose if she didn't pay attention? Now that the audience has entered, it is obvious that tickets cannot be sold. Yin Chu can only stand on the podium regretfully and announce the rules of the competition. The rules of the selection competition maintain Yin Chu's consistent style of simple, rough, direct, but effective. The pairs of even and odd numbers fight each other. As for how to fight, it is up to the two players to decide. Such unreliable competition rules were seriously stated by Yin Chu, and surprisingly there was no large-scale opposition. For a while, the gymnasium was divided into two groups, the serious competition group and the funny group. Yin Chu handed the former to Jin Ruian, and watched the latter leisurely. Rock, paper, scissors, arm wrestling and the like are simply child's play for this group of funny players. Obstacle races and the like are about childishness. Dance fighting and the like are about art. Breath-holding competitions and the like are about lung capacity. Drinking potions and the like are about heartbeats. Yin Chu discovered talents while having people record and edit the highlights of the competition. It is better to share happiness with others than to enjoy it alone. Such a pleasant scene should naturally be shared with everyone. Of course, it would be even better if a viewing fee could be charged. Yin Chu is serious about the credit points. Don't think that these people who don't take the competition seriously are just here to mess around. Yin Chu really used his keen eyes to discover many talents among them. For example, the two people in the potion drinking group can obviously judge the ingredients based on the color and taste of the potion. Even if such talents don't participate in the Alliance military quality competition, they can still be recommended to Professor Taubixi's laboratory. Odd and even numbers. Chapter 315, Preliminary Round again. Yin Chu, as a close friend, not understand what she was thinking? After detoxifying both sides of the competition, Yin Yulan represented Professor Taubixi's laboratory and immediately extended an olive branch to them. As a demon who followed two level 7 pharmacists, it was not easy for Yin Yulan to have a good chat with two drug addicts. Before the competition was over, Yin Yulan had already won 2 little fans. Looking at Yin Yulan's spirited face, Yin Chu couldn't help laughing. Of course, such pearls in the ocean are only a minority after all. Most of the funny factions have reasons for not being able to fight against the enemy seriously, or in other words, weaknesses. So, when Yin Chu announced that the second round of the preliminary competition was a mecha fighting competition, some were happy and some were sad. The Alliance military quality competition was not without mecha fighting events, but most of them appeared in the years when mechas were just popular. Later, with a gradual improvement and perfection of mecha technology, this project gradually withdrew from the stage of history. In the past 100 years, this project has reached an awkward position and was almost eliminated from the Alliance military quality competition. Now, it was taken out by Yin Chu as a selection project. The opposition in the gymnasium was even more severe than in the first round of the competition. Yin Chu ignored these oppositions, took the game record book and called out the names one by one. Although there were many dissatisfied people, no one gave up the game because of the Blackwater Army's reserve quota. It seemed that there were no rules. Whoever Yin Chu called would play. But after watching the first 10 games, all the dissatisfaction gradually faded. Because these 10 games added up to no more than an hour. Being able to achieve an overwhelming victory within 6 minutes, no matter whether he is from the practical school or the funny school, they all deserve respect. As for the loser, in competitive competitions, being bad is the original sin, no explanation. At that moment, the 600 people, including the spectators, put away their contempt for Yin Chu. This seemingly careless and unserious examiner is not simple. More than 300 games were played for 5 days. More than 600 contestants took out their own mechas, covering not only all models of Tang's mechas, but also models produced by other mecha factories on the market, and even mechas assembled by themselves. But so many mechas, together with the operations of mecha drivers, are invisible in the eyes of Yin Chu. For 5 days, her eyes were fixed on the competition field, without any slack. On the light computer, all the annotations were made while everyone was leaving and entering the field. There are advantages and disadvantages. There are frameworks and details. Yin Chu tried her best and achieved the ultimate. So, when this game was over, she insisted on announcing the rules of the third round of the preliminary round. After 5 days and 5 nights without rest, she finally fell on the bed. The third competition event that Yin Chu chose for everyone was a traditional event that could not be more traditional cross-country running. What Mr. Pang Lei sent to Yin Chu back then has now been sent to someone else by someone else arranged by Yin Chu. He took away the space deduction from others and sent them a 40 cm long and 50 cm high blue bag containing a yellow signal gun, a kindergarten-style map, a small and pitiful piece of marching rations, and 2 500 milliliters bottles of drinking water. Jin Ruian deeply realized that Yin Chu was cold, ruthless, and unreasonable. But when more than 300 signal flares exploded in the gymnasium, smoke filled the air, and people couldn't stop coughing, Jin Ruian found that he still underestimated the degree of Yin Chu's coldness, ruthlessness, and unreasonableness. And he sighed from the bottom of his heart that it was great that it didn't fall into the hands of Yin Chu. There was no time, so he only sent 1,000 words. I will make up the other half later. What you say must count. It doesn't matter if you stay up late. Chapter 316 Low Profile. With a shout of "Let's go!" the contestants in the gymnasium filed out. The bustling gymnasium suddenly became quiet. Jin Ruian sneaked on the aircraft and detoured to the finish line from another direction. Then, standing on the commanding heights, he watched the contestants holding the kindergarten-style map and running around the training star. The happy feeling of everyone is drunk but I am awake is damn comfortable. Jin Ruian suddenly understood a little bit why Yin Chu chose this old routine to pit this group of new teammates. There are really not many competitions that can exercise the contestants' abilities in all aspects and allow the referees to sleep well. As for the question of whether the routine is old or not, it doesn't exist. A big guy once said, no matter whether the cat is white or black, it is a good cat if it catches the mouse. 1 hour is obviously not enough for someone to catch up on sleep. Therefore, Yin Chu not only borrowed from teacher Pang Lei Pang's cross-country race system, but also increased the difficulty for the contestants. On the uphill road leading to the finish line, burying a 10-fold gravity device or something must be a must. Teacher Pang Lei prepared 200 meters for everyone, but when it came to Yin Chu, it doubled immediately 400 meters of uphill road, 10 times the gravity, etc. Just ask you, are you afraid? As for the star plant and star beast that teacher Pang Lei prepared for the boys, Yin Chu didn't have the energy. However, this guy made full use of the resources around him and asked Miss Yin Yulan to prepare paralysis potions for the boys. And specially prepared 2 cleaning robots. As long as the infrared scan detected someone, they would start spraying regularly. Make sure that all contestants feel that their registration fee of 3,000 credit points is worth it. So, when Yin Chu climbed out of the bed leisurely, she saw more than 40 dusty contestants, staring at her with their eyebrows raised. Yin Chu smiled awkwardly but politely, and sold out teacher Pang Lei without hesitation. When I first participated in the Alliance military quality competition, teacher Pang Lei used this project. I just took it and reused it, afraid that everyone would not believe it. Yin Chu also found the video footage of the year and showed it to everyone. When everyone looked at the performance of the second-year students Yin Chu and then looked at themselves, they swallowed back all the complaints that were on their lips. First of all, most of them relied on their strong physical fitness and did not carefully study the preliminary competition process of the Alliance Military Academy. Secondly, most of them did not see the key point of the kindergarten-style map. It is true that the Alliance Military Academy is tireless in destroying people, but they are not as smart as Yin Chu, which is the key to their tragedy. In competitive competitions, being bad is the original sin, no explanation. Seeing that Yin Chu suppressed this group of inexperienced children effortlessly, Jin Ruian silently gave her a thumbs up. Yin Chu waved to Jin Ruian with her back to the contestants. Keep a low profile. You must keep a low profile. After all, everyone is under the same starry sky. If someone finds out, they will be put in a sack by more than 40 people. Jin Ruian was shocked and quickly restrained her expression and movements. Being put in a sack by more than 40 people was too beautiful to imagine. Therefore, she would do her best to put into practice the low profile that classmate Yin Chu had told her to do. Chapter 317 Premeditated. The logistics staff headed by Yin Yulan carefully checked everyone's physical condition and picked up all the contestants at the foot of the mountain. After that, everyone returned to the gymnasium smoothly on the aircraft. After the starship took away the eliminated group of people, the final seeded players finally stayed. Among the 47 people, except for one logistics, all were combat professionals, and most of them were concentrated in the mecha driving department. This is completely inconsistent with the consistent style of Yin Chu of organically cooperating various professions. The selected players looked at each other, and began to murmur in their hearts. But Yin Chu didn't care. He drove them away to rest for a while, and then seized the time to start special training. The first teacher was not someone else, but Yin Yulan. No matter how little the participating players cared about the preliminaries, they would still watch the finals of the Alliance military quality competition. They were still quite welcome to Yin Yulan, a woman who amazed the entire alliance and changed the status of pharmacists. Of course, this liking was established before Yin Yulan opened her mouth. When Yin Yulan told them that this was a compulsory subject for the participating team members, there would be an exam at the end of the training period, and those who failed the exam would be eliminated directly. Everyone's liking for him immediately disappeared, and their eyes looking at Yin Yulan could not help but become more resentful. Facing everyone's unfriendly eyes, Yin Yulan quickly talked about the species, distribution, characteristics, functions, and other knowledge of the star-planted star beasts in the Beman star field, or more precisely, the area near the planet Zilliman, and immediately ran away. Obviously, the little girl was scared. No wonder. 2 fists can't beat 4 hands. Yin Yulan had to face more than 40 people and more than 80 hands. What if he was accidentally blocked halfway and put on a sack? However, Yin Yulan obviously thought too much. Even among combat professionals, there are no shortage of knowledgeable people. The battle that made Yinchu famous was on the planet Zileman. In that battle, the Alliance Military Academy had a particularly difficult time, but unexpectedly won the championship as a dark horse. It was luck, but also strength. The Alliance remembered the Alliance Military Academy, the name Yinchu, and the planet Zileman. On the planet Zileman, those things that Yinchu had perfectly used, once they overlapped with what the team members had learned, their meanings immediately jumped out of the paper. When they thought that they were about to run to the planet Zileman, which was only 800,000 kilometers away from the front line, the person that all the team members wanted to block the most was definitely not Yin Yulan. Instead, it was Yinchu who used the Blackwater Army Reserve quota as bait to lure these fools into the trap. Facing the public outrage, Yinchu was not afraid. No need to think, just take out the words that persuaded Jin Ruyan and use them again. Simple, rough, direct, and effective. Seeing that a riot was about to start, it was silently extinguished by a bowl of spiritual chicken soup from Yinchu. Yin Yulan could only silently give Yinchu a thumbs up. After everyone finally learned the knowledge of star plants and star beasts, Yinchu invited another well-known teammate Biao Yuo from the logistics department to explain to everyone another must-test professional knowledge how to quickly and effectively solve the problem of food, clothing, housing and transportation in the wild. After finally learning these two courses, the Mecha Principle and Simple Mecha Maintenance courses are open again. After everyone has finished these miscellaneous courses, the Alliance Military Quality Competition is also imminent. Miss Elena did not lie. The organizer really unexpectedly arranged the competition on the planet Zileman. Once again standing at the port of Zileman in the Beman star field, except for the heat wave that hit me, everything else has changed. The barracks that looked like a small military base were mostly destroyed. The gymnasium in the distance was also riddled with holes. The food street that was once prosperous is now empty. This dilapidated scene not only surprised the participants, but also exceeded the expectations of the organizers. Faced with the endless complaints and even the threat of withdrawal, the organizers actually compromised. The competition venue was moved from Zileman in the Beman star field to Rainbow Planet in the Cheyenne-Soho star field, 1 million kilometers away. Hearing the forward Cheyenne-Soho star field, everyone's eyes turned to Yinchu at the same time. How many people still remember the earth-shattering battle between her and the Cheyenne-Soho Military Academy team on the Black Rock planet? Now, is it considered a narrow road for enemies? Facing everyone's eyes, Yinchu was also unhappy. The feud between her and the Cheyenne-Soho Military Academy team was minor, but the feud between her and the family that was in charge of the Cheyenne-Soho Star region was major. After encountering star pirates on other people's territory several times, Yinchu felt uncomfortable when she heard the words Cheyenne-Soho Star region. If she had the right to choose, she would rather stay in the dilapidated planet Zileman than step into the Cheyenne-Soho Star region. But did she have the right to choose? Of course. No. So, whether she was willing or not, she had to board the starship to the Cheyenne-Soho Star region. The star ring of the Rainbow Planet is as colorful as its name. Unfortunately, inside the beautiful star ring is a cruel living environment. It is even more cruel than the Black Rock planet where volcanic eruptions often occur. Before the starship landed, the participating players saw the mist rising outside the window. The organizers, who have always been stingy, even showed extra grace and prepared a pair of boots to prevent high-temperature burns for everyone. This alone made Yinchu realize that this trip to the Cheyenne-Soho Star region was definitely not the result of the organizers' compromise, but a premeditated ulterior motive by some people. Most people realized this, and there were many other meanings in their eyes when they looked at Yinchu. Yinchu pushed his back teeth, pulled Jin Ruyan over, and whispered, "If anything happens to me, the command will be handed over to you. You must support me." Jin Ruyan looked at Yinchu's cautious look and couldn't help frowning. There are a total of 17 planets in the Cheyenne-Soho Star region, each of which is about 500 million square kilometers. The probability of you running into the hands of that group of people is very small. Yinchu patted Jin Ruyan on the shoulder and said in a deep voice, "Your data is based on the situation that those people didn't know I would come. If they knew that I would set foot on the Rainbow Planet," Jin Ruyan's hand that was clicking on the optical brain paused. Because she knew it very well. If the conditions assumed by Yinchu are true, then the probability of her meeting with a group of people from Cheyenne-Soho Military Academy who participated in the competition that year would inevitably rise to 100%. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318. A man named Murphy told us, "Whatever you fear, it will surely come to you." The ominous premonition in Yinchu's heart was confirmed the moment she stepped off the starship. The tall figure next to the dark brown rock at the port, who else could it be but Andrew Scott? And the one beside him, holding his head high like a proud white swan, who else could it be but his old partner Yu Zhenzhen? Looking at the two strange yet familiar figures, Yinchu couldn't help but groan. Jin Ruian followed her gaze and said with difficulty, "Are they really here?" Although Yinchu was overwhelmed, she still said fairly, "Isn't it normal for the outstanding graduates of Shianshuo Military Academy to be stationed in Shianshuo Star Region?" Jin Ruian didn't know whether Andrew Scott and Yu Zhenzhen were outstanding or not. What his enemies meet on a narrow road, Jin Ruian finally figured it out today. The moment the two sides' eyes met, Jin Ruian seemed to see lightning and fire bursting. Teacher Pang Lei even felt that if his eyes could materialize, Yinchu would have been cut into pieces by the two men in front of him. At this moment, the same thought flashed through Jin Ruian and Pang Lei's minds: if Yinchu really had an accident, who would be the most suitable person to replace her? Before Jin Ruian and Pang Lei could come to a conclusion, Yinchu had already walked past the two people without looking away and walked towards the stadium full of flags of the organizers. Andrew Scott and Yu Zhenzhen, two living people, were just ignored by Yinchu. What does it mean to win without any moves? Jin Ruian and Pang Lei have seen it. For the first time, the two people felt that the sound of grinding teeth was so pleasant. Pang Lei even wanted to ask Andrew Scott and Yu Zhenzhen, "What does it feel like to have an itchy back molar?" Considering that this is someone else's territory, he gave up. Although Pang Lei did not commit suicide, the Alliance Military Academy, which had a deadly feud with the Shianshuo Military Academy, could not expect to have a good life in the territory of Andrew Scott and Yu Zhenzhen. Living in the most remote dormitory, eating the worst food, and being on guard against poisoning and digging traps. The team members looked at their captain with tears in their eyes. Who is the best at digging traps? Yinchu will definitely win. It is said that when the whistle of the preliminary round was blown, many participating players of the Alliance Military Academy shed excited tears. The lineup of all combat professionals, coupled with the careful guidance of Yin Yulan and Biao Yuo, allowed the Alliance Military Academy to win the preliminary round effortlessly. While the Alliance Military Academy cheered, Andrew's fist slammed the wall of the training ground. With a clang, a hole the size of a steamed bun was left on the metal wall. Yu Zhenzhen glanced at the pit and said coldly, "Captain Andrew Scott, please control your emotions." Andrew glanced at Yu Zhenzhen and sneered, "Let me control my temper? Are you kidding me?" Yu Zhenzhen looked Andrew up and down and curled her lips. "Okay. I was overthinking it. Damaging public property requires triple compensation. Please pay the fine voluntarily." Andrew curled his lips. "As long as you don't stop me, you can deduct as much fine as you want." Yu Zhenzhen listened to Andrew's words and couldn't help but bulge. "Captain Andrew Scott, please remember. The purpose of the fine is to let you remember that violence cannot solve any problem. I have no interest in your allowance." Andrew patted the dust on his hands, clicked his tongue, and said nothing. That look clearly showed that he didn't believe Yu Zhenzhen's words. Chapter 319 Chaos. Yu Zhenzhen looked at Andrew's stubborn look and felt her back teeth itching. She told Andrew more than once that it is never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. She also advised Andrew more than once to temporarily avoid the edge of Yinchu and avoid this security mission. But Andrew refused to listen. He always felt that Rainbow Planet was his territory. Sooner or later, he would find an opportunity to severely punish Yinchu to avenge the arrow shot on the past. But he didn't think about the past between them and Yinchu. Who in the Alliance didn't know? Once Yinchu got into trouble on Rainbow Planet, no matter whether they did it or not, others would put the blame on them. If Yinchu was a godlike opponent, Andrew Scott was the legendary pig teammate in Yu Zhenzhen's heart. If the higher-ups hadn't been particularly optimistic about this reckless man and hadn't repeatedly greeted Yu Zhenzhen wouldn't have cared about this useless guy. Yu Zhenzhen took a deep breath, and the contempt in her eyes flashed away. Although she looked down on Andrew, she still tried to persuade him earnestly for the 101st time. Who knew that Andrew didn't appreciate it at all? Yu's Hanson just started, and this guy turned around and left. Looking at Andrew's back, Yu's Hanson clenched her fist for the 10,000th time. Tolerate him once more. For the last time. Yu's Hanson kept persuading herself until her fists loosened silently. Looking at Andrew's hurried back, Yu's Hanson gritted her teeth, quickly opened her light brain, and issued a brief instruction: keep an eye on Captain Andrew Scott, and calm him down when necessary. Soon, a figure caught up with Andrew. At the moment when Andrew approached the dormitory building of the Alliance Military Academy, a flash of cold light passed by, and a silver needle tempered with a high concentration of paralysis medicine was deeply inserted into Andrew's Feng Fu acupoint. Andrew's figure swayed, and a man in black protective clothing stepped forward quickly and steadily caught Andrew's body leaning back. Yin-Chu watched this scene from a distance, and a trace of regret flashed in her heart. As a participant in the Alliance military quality competition, she should be protected by the Cheyenne-Soho Star Region Rainbow Planet Garrison. As long as Andrew, a garrison, dared to take action, Yin-Chu dared to expose this matter and let Andrew Scott have a hard time. Unfortunately, Andrew Scott was invited back just after he walked downstairs. If nothing unexpected happened, the person who invited him should be the proud Yu Zhenzhen beside him, who is like a white swan. Compared with the irritable Andrew, Yu Zhenzhen, who is dormant like a poisonous scorpion and ready to bite people at any time, was more difficult. It seems that this time the competition may go smoothly unexpectedly. The next day, when Yin-Chu saw the 18 identical sheath beetles in the distance, her worldview was shattered. She silently sent this scene to Marshals Song Yuanxi and Blake and closed her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, Yin-Chu's expression became particularly solemn. She slowly stood up and said loudly to the referee, who was still explaining the rules of the game on the rostrum, on behalf of the Alliance Military Academy, I give up the right to participate in this Alliance military quality competition. Yin-Chu's words stunned Pang Lei and Jin Ruian. The members of the Alliance Military Academy looked at her helplessly, with a look of doubt on their faces. As the team with the best performance in the preliminary round, and the favorite to win the Alliance military quality competition, the Alliance Military Academy had no reason to give up the competition at this time. Is Yin-Chu crazy? After a moment of silence, there was an uproar in the audience. Even the referee stopped and asked seriously, students, Yin-Chu, are you serious? Yin-Chu pointed to the 18 sheath beetles not far away and said coldly, if the organizers asked us to deal with them with our bare hands, I can tell you very seriously that every word I said was extremely serious. Yin-Chu paused for a second and continued, I can tell you responsibly. They are not star beasts, but a kind of mutant creatures with an exoskeleton as hard as iron, with strong reproductive ability, and can make people fall into coma. They have appeared in my hometown, Lingsu Star Region. Wherever they go, no grass grows. The officers and soldiers of the Blackwater Army call them sheath beetles. If you are unfortunate enough to encounter them, please enter your mecha as soon as possible and prepare for battle. Don't let their hard forelimbs scratch your flexible skin. Yin-Chu took a deep breath and said word by word, I yearn for the championship. I yearn for success. But life is only once, I can't take risks with my teammates. So, I choose to give up the right to participate. Classmate Yin-Chu's voice was not loud, but it was deafening. Classmate Yin-Chu's figure was not tall, but she stood tall in the hearts of the contestants. The scene fell into a strange silence. The referee stared at Yin-Chu blankly, not knowing whether to believe this thin girl in front of him. 3 seconds later, the referee's light brain began to flash non-stop. The referee glanced at his light brain, urgently stopped the game, and hurried away. This was the first emergency stop since the start of the Alliance military quality competition. For a time, Alliance military quality competition, mutated biology, Yin-Chu, sheath beetle, all became hot search terms on the Star Network. Real experts and fake experts all appeared. People who have seen or not seen sheath beetles also appeared. They had different opinions and could not agree. Until, Grandpa Li Bangsha, a 7th-level pharmacist at the forefront of mutant biology research, stood up and affirmed Yin-Chu's statement. The dust has finally settled. At the same time, the Star Network also exploded. There were actually 18 mutant creatures at the semifinals of the Alliance military quality competition. Moreover, they had exoskeletons as hard as iron, strong reproductive abilities, and mutant creatures that could make people fall into coma. This cannot be simply summarized as a mistake. The entire alliance was in an uproar. Except for the Shanzhou Military Academy, the 57 military academies stood up at the first time and protested to the Alliance Military Department, the organizer of the Alliance Military Quality Competition. Yinchu looked at Principal Zhou Dingzhou, who was standing at the front row of the protest team on the Star Network, and couldn't help but sneered. Although it was unknown whether he was involved in this matter, just because he stopped those dandies and didn't let any of them into the participating team, Yinchu dared to conclude that he must be an insider. Chapter 320, Incident. Principal Zhou Dingzhou's skill of passing the buck is indeed excellent. But since Yinchu can see it, other people are not all fools, so they can see it naturally. It's just that they see it but don't say it. In order to see that he can see it more thoroughly, Yinchu simply asked Jin Ruyan for the information of all the contestants and read it carefully. You don't know until you see it, and you will be shocked when you see it. Among the 57 participating teams, there is no contestant who has anything to do with the military. So, are all these principals drama queens? These principals force themselves to try drama. Can the drama queens in the military tolerate it? The military has never been afraid of acting. The protest of the military school has not ended yet, and the performance of the military has begun. The acting skills of the actors on both sides are very good, and the melon-eating crowd Yinchu is enjoying it. But no matter how delicious the food is, you will get tired of it after eating it too much. The same melon, eating it over and over again, will naturally get tired of it. Half a month has passed. Not only does it not mean trend, but more actors have been dragged in, and countless branch plots have been unfolded. There was not a single department that was not involved in the Alliance Military Quality Competition. The black pot was circulating among them, with no intention of being put to rest. Yinchu was finally fed up with those hypocritical faces. She simply turned off her optical computer, locked herself in the room, and started playing with the mecha. The mechas of all the contestants of the Alliance Military Academy were borrowed by Yinchu. The teammates who lent their mechas to Yinchu, out of courtesy, secretly tested the mechas returned by Yinchu. You don't know until you try, and you'll be shocked when you try. The owners of 8 of the 10 mechas felt that their mechas had been handled by Yinchu. But they couldn't tell what Yinchu had done to their mechas. They only knew one thing: his mecha was more convenient to use than before. Isn't she a mecha pilot? When did she become a mecha foundry? No one knows. No one dares to ask. After Yinchu finally finished studying the mechas of his team members, the organizers did not come up with a plan or explanation. Yinchu finally couldn't sit still. In front of the whole alliance, he submitted a withdrawal application to the organizer of the Alliance Military Quality Competition, the military department, and 13 related departments on the Star Network. A stone stirs up 1,000 waves. With Yinchu as the first bird, other participating teams also began to follow suit and submitted withdrawal applications through the Star Network. When 57 participating teams expressed their intention to withdraw from the competition, this year's Alliance Military Quality Competition was directly dead in name only. The group of drama queens in the military department finally withdrew from their acting careers and approved the withdrawal applications of 57 participating teams. As soon as the minister of the military department signed the withdrawal application, Yu Zhenzhen, on behalf of the Shanzhou military, sent a deadline departure notice to all participants. The notice clearly stated, everything on the Rainbow Planet in the Shanzhou Star region was prepared free of charge for the contestants of the Alliance Military Quality Competition. Now, due to the danger of the competition cannot be carried out. Shanzhou Star region has the right to take back all the resources it provides. In addition, those whose entry applications have expired must leave the country within 1 day and take away the dangerous items they brought. The entry applications of the contestants are all approved by the organizer for a period of 20 days. In other words, the 300 or 400 people participating in the Alliance Military Quality Competition must take away 18 sheath beetles and evacuate Shanzhou Star region within 1 day. Although this is a bit difficult, as long as the organizer organizes it properly, there is no way. Who knows, when 57 team leaders came to the organizer to discuss the evacuation plan, they actually rejected the reasonable request of the team leaders on the grounds that their entry applications had not expired. All the contestants came from the planet Zilliman on the starship arranged by the organizer. Now that the organizer has dropped the burden, the 57 participating teams are immediately at a loss. Yinchu, who followed Pang Lei, saw this scene and had already come to his senses. She tapped her palm and sneered, Since the organizer intends to draw a line between us, let's talk it out. The Alliance military quality competition is of high quality, and the status of the organizer's staff is naturally not low. The first time they heard someone speak to them in this tone, the staff present were stunned. Looking at the surprised look of the group of people, Yin-Chu couldn't help but sneered. First of all, the space buckles of all the contestants are in your hands. Now that the minister has signed the application for withdrawal, the space buckles should be returned to us. Yin-Chu's words are reasonable and legitimate. It has received the full support of all the contestants, and the staff can only grit their teeth and accept it. Seeing the space buckle return to his hand, Yin-Chu slowly said the second point. 3-year-old children know the principle that whoever is in charge is responsible, whoever implements is responsible, and whoever organizes is responsible. As the organizer of this event, since you have brought 18 Shrewd beetles, you should be responsible for dealing with them, and you should not push it onto our participants. Yin-Chu's words were well reasoned and echoed by everyone, and also successfully made the staff look black. Yu Hansun looked at the staff who were retreating step by step, and then looked at Yin-Chu who was responding to everyone's call, and sighed and raised her hand. A man in a black protective suit beside her saw her action, nodded slightly, and tapped his fingers quickly in the void a few times. Strings of data flowed quickly and converged at a certain point. When all the data gathered in one place, Yu Hansun and her group quickly opened their mechas and jumped in. The mecha that suddenly appeared in the original place naturally attracted the attention of Yin-Chu. She turned her head and looked behind her, and she felt bad. The 18 cages of Shrewd beetles disappeared without a trace. 18 Shrewd beetles were approaching them step by step. Yin-Chu immediately took out a loudspeaker in her space buckle and shouted at the top of her voice, "Everyone, get into your mecha immediately and enter the first level combat readiness mode." Yin-Chu's anxious voice awakened many people and also scared many people. The most important thing is that she successfully attracted the attention of the Shrewd beetles. The 18 Shrewd beetles, without exception, attacked in her direction. She had to drive her mecha to leave the Shyans-Ho star field on her own. This was simply an impossible task. Chapter 321 War. Although the situation was urgent, Yin-Chu did not forget the principle of repeating important things 3 times. After 3 notifications, Yin-Chu took out her mecha and got in. Yin-Chu did not hide, but decisively went in the direction of the Shrewd beetle. Only in this way can she win more and earlier survival opportunities for those contestants behind her who have not yet come to their senses. The 57 leading teachers of the military academy finally reacted, followed the pace of Yin-Chu, and took the initiative to meet the Shrewd beetle. Next, it was the contestants of the Union Military Academy. They practiced a coordinated operation of mechas countless times, and finally came in handy at this moment. When the last laggard finally climbed onto his mecha in a hurry, Yin-Chu was already 1 step ahead and knocked over the leading Shrewd beetle. Of course, she only knocked over this one. After all, the 57 leading teachers and more than 40 contestants of the Union Military Academy are not vegetarians. However, among the corpses of the 18 Shrewd beetles, the one in front of Yin-Chu was the most complete. Because of this completeness, all the teachers re-examined this girl who recognized the mutant creatures at a glance, took the lead in withdrawing from the competition, and took the initiative to meet the enemy. Pang Lei even lost his arrogance as a team leader and asked, "Captain Yin, what should we do next?" Yin-Chu looked at the 18 corpses of Shrewd beetles on the ground and sneered, "The corpses of mutant creatures are research materials that many laboratories can't even ask for. Since they are delivered to our door, there is no reason for us to refuse. Using these 18 corpses of mutant creatures in exchange for 300 or 400 starship tickets, there should be someone who agrees." Yin-Chu's voice was not loud, but it was unexpectedly shocking. The 57 team leaders looked at each other and said in unison, "Okay, the closest to the Cheyenne-Soho star region is naturally the Bemin star region. But the Bemin star region is now the front line, and the supreme commander is the son of Song Yuanqi, the son of Marshal Song. They are not familiar with each other." The 57 team leaders fell into silence collectively. The female classmate who impressed them in a new way calmly opened her own light brain and sent a video request. Then, the Marshal's son, the nemesis of the Alliance Star Pirates, Colonel Song Si, who they were not familiar with, appeared in front of them. They had never thought that the business of exchanging mutant corpses for starship tickets was actually settled by the little girl with big ideas in just a few words. How can the gap between people be so big? The staff standing behind them, staring at all this, looked at each other and couldn't say a word. When the expeditionary warships landed at the port of Rainbow Planet with force, Yu Zhansun knew what Yinchu had done. She wanted to stop it, but after seeing the recording equipment in the hands of Jin Ruyan and others, she reluctantly gave up. The expeditionary starship first sent everyone to the capital star, and then sent the bodies of the 18 Shuth beetles and Yinchu to the Blue Sea Star. The body of the Shuth beetle went into Mr. Li Bangsha's laboratory, while Yinchu went into the principal's office of Lan Yuan. The two foxes, one old and one young, made a comprehensive and detailed analysis of this farce. The spearhead pointed in the same direction, Shianzhou Star region. To be precise, it was the Field family. Chapter 322. Yinchu and Lan Yuan were gathered together at this moment. To be precise, it was Emil Field and Barton Field who went to find their eldest brother, Bond Field. However, the Field family only had 3 brothers plus Olaf Field, so it was not wrong to say that the whole family was gathered together. After finally getting together, the expressions of the 3 brothers were not very good. Especially the third brother, Barton Field, whose face was so dark that ink could drip. Although Bond Field was a little surprised by their sudden visit, he quickly reacted and welcomed them in with a smile, and ordered the people below to serve tea and snacks to his 2 younger brothers. What kind of person is Bond Field? He can hide it from others, but he can't hide it from his 2 half-brothers. Barton Field has a more straightforward personality and started to yell directly. I know you are a top student who graduated from the Drama Academy. But there are no outsiders here. Can you stop acting? Barton Field's words successfully made Bond's face as dark as his. I greeted you with good intentions, and you are just like that? As your brother, how could I have offended you? Barton Field laughed when he heard this. Why did we come to find Big Brother? Didn't Captain Yu from Rainbow Planet tell you? When Pound heard Barton mention Yu Zhansun, his heart tightened and he laughed. Captain Yu and Olaf are close friends and have close contact. However, the whereabouts of the third brother are the highest secrets of the Shianzhou Star region, and Captain Yu never mentioned it to Olaf. I can't guess what the third brother is thinking, not to mention Barton. Even Emil Field didn't believe a word of Pound's words. What Captain Yu said and didn't say to Olaf, only God knows, and you two know it in your hearts, but I don't know. But I saw what Captain Yu did. I don't know if Big Brother knows. If Big Brother doesn't know, I need to tell Big Brother about it. There were a lot of things he knew and didn't know, which was very confusing, but as a diplomat, Bond was not confused, but felt a little nervous. I really don't know what Captain Yu did. Please tell me clearly, third brother. Seeing Bond's slightly hurried speech speed and slightly solemn expression, the 2 brothers Emil and Barton were a little unsure. The 2 brothers looked at each other, and Barton stepped forward and put a video on his light brain in front of Bond. In the video, Yu Zhansun instructed the black-clothed man beside him to open the cage of the mutant creatures, and immediately drove the mecha to evacuate. The action was vivid, as if he was there in person. Pound's face suddenly became extremely ugly. For 3 consecutive years, the enrollment of Shianzhou Military Academy has not been ideal. In the past 2 years, we have not even qualified for the Alliance military quality competition. I admit that I panicked. Pound's voice was filled with uncontrollable fatigue. Emil narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, so, what did you do? Pound smiled bitterly. What can I do? He had a hard time inciting the military to choose Zilliman as the site. He had a hard time bribing the staff to move to Rainbow Planet. But because of a few words from that classmate Yinchu. At this point, Pound's expression became particularly ferocious. Of course, if they knew that this female classmate was still the boss of Tang's mecha after taking off her vest, Pound would be so angry that he would vomit blood. Of course, the current Yinchu still covered his vest tightly. Under the circumstance that the hatred between the 2 sides has not yet accumulated, even if Pound hates Yinchu, he would not go to great lengths to prepare 18 Shuth beetles and have someone deliberately open them. Of course, even if Yinchu's vest fell off, Pound would not dare to instruct someone to do such a thing in public. Pound knew very well what kind of crime it would be to bring mutant creatures to the Alliance military quality competition. And deliberately releasing mutant creatures. Just thinking about it made him tremble all over. Pound was a thief with a heart but no courage. Seeing his cowardly look, Emil sneered, that's it? It's really meaningless. Patton's expression was also a little ugly. He grabbed his hat and stood up. People in our Field family have always been the ones who threw dirty water on others, but never got dirty water thrown on them. Since these things were not done by the eldest brother, Hanson has to give me an explanation. Emil nodded. Okay. You have a good chat with Captain Yu. I will also learn from the old foxes in the capital star. Patton looked at his second brother deeply and said in a deep voice, as long as you are happy. Seeing that Patton was about to walk to the door, Emil added, don't play with someone's life before the problem is discussed. Patton paused, turned his head and looked at Emil deeply, and said lightly, study hard and don't jump out of the game. After that, he turned around and left. As for Pound on the side, he was directly ignored. Pound Field, as the eldest brother, did not dare to express any opinions. After all, after knowing each other for so many years, Bond knew better than anyone how powerful his two younger brothers were. Moreover, Emil and Barton were busy all because of him. Therefore, he could only silently send a message to Olaf Field, asking his son to come back to deal with his deep-minded second brother. After receiving the message from Bond, Olaf immediately rushed home. The moment he saw his son, Bond seemed to see a savior. Bond tightly grasped Olaf's hand and said nervously, son, your second uncle is here. Olaf patted his hand and gave him a comforting look. After settling Bond, he strode towards Emil. Second uncle, why didn't you tell me that you were here? So I could pick you up. Emil looked at Olaf's flattering expression and his expression eased a little. You're back? Come and tell your uncle what stupid things your dad has done recently. These words. Olaf glanced at Pound secretly, not knowing what to say for a moment. Pound looked at his brother, then at his son, and slammed the door and left angrily. Humph. Out of sight, out of mind. Without Pound present, Olaf immediately relaxed. He sat down slowly next to Emil, and from near to far, he listed the stupid things that Mr. Poundfield had done bit by bit. Olaf became more and more excited as he spoke, but Emil became calmer as he listened. Chapter 323. Emil was not surprised at all that Poundfield would do stupid things. If there was no news about Pound for a while, Emil would feel uncomfortable. Olaf's words were full of anger, but Emil was happier the more he listened. He had seen many stupid people, but it was the first time Emil had seen someone who was as stupid as Pound. Since Pound had brought him so much joy, he could let him off a little when the time came to settle the score. Seeing that Olaf was about to count to last summer, Emil finally patted his shoulder with satisfaction. We are father and son, you should bear with me. Olaf's mouth twitched, and he didn't know what to say for a while. He almost forgot that Poundfield, this idiot, was his father by blood. Seeing Olaf speechless and choking, Emil's evil taste was finally satisfied, and he walked away with his hands behind his back. When the largest energy stone merchant in the entire alliance is in a bad mood, he likes to see people around him in the same bad mood as him. And Pound and Olaf just bumped into his gun. When Emil's bad taste was satisfied, Bartonfield had just stepped off the starship. Just like Pound likes to be stupid in small things, Emil has a bad taste of not wanting to see others do well, and Bartonfield also has a little habit. He can't tolerate things around him out of his control. Even the journey of nearly 10 hours back and forth made this tough guy feel tired. But if the disordered Lincolnshire sorrow is not dealt with and Hughes Hanson is interrogated clearly, Bartonfield will definitely not be able to sleep even if he lies in bed. The boots hit the floor, making a regular tapping sound, echoing in the long and silent corridor, announcing Barton's arrival and successfully waking up Hughes Hanson, who was dozing. She slowly opened her eyes passed over Bartonfield, who was dressed neatly and meticulously. She paused at the water stain on his collar and said softly, "You're here." Bartonfield followed her gaze, glanced at his collar, and frowned slightly. It should be left when he went to the bathroom to wash his face before leaving the starship. Although it was only a small drop, it was beyond Barton's tolerance. He couldn't let his opponent lead him by the nose. Bartonfield took a deep breath, loosened the top button of his uniform, and let the water stain move a little further away from him. Only then did he barely resist the urge to change into a uniform. He looked at the woman on the ground fiercely, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in his eyes. Even though this woman was weak under the effect of the potion and could only lie on the floor, she was in a mess. But her eyes were still shining, and there was unquestionable determination in her eyes. This was a very smart woman. She was so smart that she could make him lose his mind with just one look. When they first met, before they even started fighting, Bartonfield knew that he had already lost. Barton could only keep convincing himself, the game has just begun, winning first is not winning, winning later is winning. He squatted down, stared at Hughes Hanson's beautiful phoenix eyes, and said softly, "You are a smart person." You should know what the consequences will be if you do this in public. But you still did it. Can you tell me why? Yu Zhensun looked at the pair of eagle eyes close at hand and smiled. Major General Barton is also a smart person. How about you guess? Bartonfield was not annoyed by being outwitted by Yu Zhensun. He stared at Yu Zhensun's eyes and said slowly, "You are smart enough and calm enough. So, it is not a momentary impulse, nor is it for personal gain. Then, there are only two possibilities. One is to target the Alliance military quality competition. The other is to target the Field family." When Bartonfield said the last sentence, Yu Zhensun's eyes slightly enlarged. Although it was fleeting, Bartonfield captured it perfectly. Is the answer the latter? Bartonfield's voice softened a bit, and he said with interest, "There are many people who are hostile to the Field family, but not many can take practical action. I wonder who your master is." The certainty in Bartonfield's words made Yu Zhensun panic for a moment. She knew that Bartonfield did not have the ability to read minds, and it was her micro-expressions that betrayed her. She had to calm herself down, control her expression, and not let Barton see any clues. Yu Zhensun slowly closed her eyes and stopped answering any questions from Barton, playing dead to the extreme. Looking at Yu Zhensun's passive resistance, Bartonfield did not get angry but laughed. He turned on his light brain and contacted the military doctor of the Cheyenne-Sioux army. "Bring all the truth-telling drugs of various concentrations, let's have fun today." Bartonfield's gloomy voice successfully awakened Yu Zhensun, who was pretending to be dead. The beautiful phoenix eyes stared at Bartonfield without blinking, and slowly uttered two words, "Despicable." Bartonfield smiled and replied with two words, "You're flattering." When their eyes met, sparks flew. Yu Zhensun is a person with a strong heart. But no matter how strong her heart is, she is vulnerable to the high-concentration truth-telling potion. Ordinary truth-telling potion, ineffective. Twice the concentration of truth-telling potion, ineffective. Triple the concentration of truth-telling potion, ineffective. Quadruple the concentration of truth-telling potion. Yu Zhensun finally couldn't help but groan. Bartonfield's questions finally had answers. Although Yu Zhensun had answers to every question Bartonfield asked. But not every answer could satisfy Bartonfield. After a tug-of-war of 10 minutes, Bartonfield was still not satisfied, and Yu Zhensun felt like she was living a year. Until Yu Zhensun curled up in a ball, foaming at the mouth, and unconscious, Bartonfield had only asked a small part of his questions. Bartonfield reluctantly summoned the military doctor. The military doctor only took a look, a trace of pity flashed in his eyes, and said with difficulty, "I'm afraid this person is useless." Bartonfield's eyes flashed with regret, and he chuckled, "Traitor, it's not a pity to die." The military doctor savored these 6 words carefully and sighed. A beautiful girl, why do she have to be a traitor when she can do anything else? Don't you know that the Field family hates traitors the most? To be precise, no one in the Alliance likes traitors. Bartonfield took a few steps and didn't hear any footsteps behind him. He couldn't help but frown. "Why are you standing there?" The military doctor looked at Barton's cold face, couldn't help but shiver, and quickly followed Barton's pace. Chapter 324 Girl. When Patton and the military doctor walked out of the dark and damp corner one after another, and the moment they saw each other again, in a corner that the military doctor did not notice, a man stood in the dark and made a gesture to Patton. Patton curled his lips and nodded gently. In the process of going back and forth, the girl who made the military doctor feel pity, Captain Yu Zhensun, left quietly. The Field family does not keep useless people, let alone traitors. However, compared with living in pain, a happy death may be a relief. Patton immediately shared the news he got with his second brother. Unfortunately, the information collected in 10 minutes did not satisfy Mr. Emil Field. "Where is the person?" Patton moved his lips and uttered 2 words with difficulty, "Gone." Emil clearly understood the meaning of these 2 words. He was in a better mood because of Pound's recent performance, but he fell to the bottom again. "How come it's gone?" Patton trembled and reported the whole thing to his second brother, who was always moody. Emil listened carefully, his expression getting uglier and uglier. "Because you have no other choice, you use the truth-telling potion. I can understand. But I can't understand why you used the truth-telling potion and got so little. I always thought that the Field family had only one idiot, Pound. I didn't expect that you are not much better than him." Patton was scolded by Emil, but he didn't dare to refute him at all. Seeing Patton's cowardly look, Emil became even more angry. Separated by half an alliance, Emil couldn't do anything to Patton, So Emil went straight back to Cheyenne-Soho Star region. After sending Emil away with great difficulty, Pound and Olaf, father and son, and even those who worked for Pound, all breathed a sigh of relief. Cheyenne-Soho Star region became panic-stricken because of Emil's return. Especially the garrison of Rainbow Planet. Anyone who was close to Yuzhensun, except Andrew who had been in a coma for more than a month, could not escape Emil's murderous hands. Not everyone is as strong as Yuzhensun. Before Emil could fully display his means, countless mouths were pried open by him. Emil had answers to all the questions that Yuzhensun did not answer. They were clear, obvious, and real. However, Yuzhensun left too fast and Emil came too slowly. The man with glasses who helped Yuzhensun open the cage in the video had long disappeared. And who is the professor that Yuzhensun only mentioned once inadvertently? Barton could not ask, and Emil could not ask either. After all, being able to cause trouble at the Alliance military quality competition and being able to escape from the Cheyenne-Soho Star region that Barton guarded like an iron barrel. The talent and ability of the man with the glasses are beyond doubt. And being able to make a woman like Yuzhensun, who dared to pluck hair from a tiger's mouth, serve him. The professor is even more unfathomable. Because of this, Barton was beaten up by Emil. The news that the Field family was looking for the man with the glasses and the professor all over the world naturally could not be hidden from Yin-Chu, who had been keeping a close eye on them. Yin-Chu followed Emil Field's steps closely and secretly issued a wanted order for the two men. Unfortunately, the alliance was almost turned over, but no clues were found. The professor hid too deep, so it was okay if he couldn't be found. The man with glasses had video records, but he still couldn't be found. Yin-Chu thought something was wrong. Until she accidentally saw the familiar yet unfamiliar face in the reflector, she suddenly trembled and had a blessing. With trembling hands, she turned on her own light brain, and asked Comrade Qin Mian opposite the light brain with difficulty, "Your unique skill, besides me, how many other people can do it?" Qin Mian's pupils suddenly dilated when he heard this. "Why are you asking this all of a sudden?" Yin-Chu didn't say anything, but just silently sent the photo of the man with the glasses that was cut out of the video. As smart as Qin Mian was, he understood the deep meaning of Yin-Chu the moment he saw the photo. Although he could understand it rationally, Qin Mian was still hurt emotionally. He stared at the photo for a full minute with a sullen face, and then said in a deep voice, "Although this guy's skills are not bad, they can't compare with mine. Give me half an hour, and I will take off this guy's vest immediately." Although Comrade Qin Mian did not answer her question directly, he used the true face of the man with the glasses to clear him from the matter. Knowing that Qin Mian, or the Blackwater Army, had nothing to do with this matter, Yin-Chu was relieved. The little fox nodded at Qin Mian with curved eyebrows. "Then I'll trouble Uncle Qin." Yin-Chu's little diligence did not make Qin Mian's expression look good even a little bit. Reluctantly giving Yin-Chu an awkward but polite smile, Qin Mian snapped and turned off the video. Looking at the dark screen, Yin-Chu couldn't help pinching his nose and laughing dryly twice. She seemed to have offended someone again unintentionally. Moreover, it seemed that the offense was quite severe. I wonder if a snack deducted from the space can coax this smart and arrogant old fox? Otherwise, save the country in a roundabout way? A snack deducted from the space should be able to make Yin Yulan a peacemaker. Even if this guy is busy seeking power and usurping the throne. Yin-Chu snorted, rolled up her sleeves, washed her hands, and walked into the kitchen. The third batch of cookies was not baked yet, and her light brain rang. Looking at the three words Uncle Qin flashing on it, Yin-Chu immediately threw away her cookies, wiped her hands casually, and quickly clicked on it. There was no word in the dialogue box between her and Comrade Qin Mian, only a photo lying there alone. Yin-Chu snorted and shook her head. This uncle's temper is too big. But who made me do it wrong? In addition to enduring and coaxing, what else can I do? Yin-Chu clicked on the photo while thinking about it. When the handsome face in the photo appeared in front of Yin-Chu, Yin-Chu was stunned. It was not because of the other person's beauty, but because the face with a face as white as jade, eyes as clear as water, and a smile was obviously a girl's face. In other words, the person next to Yuzhensun was not a man with glasses, but a real woman with glasses. No wonder she searched the entire league but found nothing. It turned out that she was looking in the wrong direction from the beginning. Chapter 325. Changing the direction and following the map, classmate Yin-Chu soon found the real owner. She did not fly into the sky or hide underground. She just took off her vest and stayed on the Rainbow Planet in Cheyenne-Soho Star region. As Meow Meow, a logistics staff member. That's all. Who would have thought that a little girl who couldn't lift or carry anything on her shoulders could cause turmoil in the entire alliance? But this Meow Meow girl is such a ruthless character. Just the calmness of finishing the work and leaving, hiding the merits and fame made classmate Yin Chu look at her with new eyes. When Yin Chu shared this news with Marshals Song Yuanqi and Blake, the two marshals were also shocked. Although they were half believing and half doubting, the two marshals quickly checked the little girl Meow Meow. Together with Yu Hansun's information, they were all sent to Yin Chu. The two girls seemed to have no intersection on the surface, but with a magnifying glass to look carefully, the two marshals still found a little clue. Before they were admitted to Cheyenne Military Academy, they had actually all been to a training school called Shangxi. This training school, located in a corner of the capital Star, looked no different from thousands of pre-exam training schools. But when Song Yuanqi and Blake saw the names of Jim Field, Anna Smith and others, the two marshals were stunned. Jim Field, Anna Smith. They seemed to have accidentally discovered something. Digging deeper along this line, the two marshals were more and more shocked. For the Shangxi Training School, whose first principal was Jim Field, and whose first batch of students included Anna Smith, Yin Chu felt that his shoulders were still too immature, and it was already difficult to carry his own little piece of land. It would be better to give the responsibility of saving the alliance to the two marshals. The two marshals looked at the helpless Yin Chu classmate, and could only smile bitterly at each other. If possible, they actually wanted to give up the burden. Following the Cheyenne Army, the Expeditionary Army and the Blackwater Army also ushered in their own internal purges. Especially the Blackwater Army, it was to the point where everyone was in danger. Even the Union Military Academy was affected, and many staff members and even several teachers were dismissed. It is said that the incident came too suddenly, and Principal Zhou Dingzhou was completely unprepared. He was caught off guard and actually asked the Blackwater Army for assistance. It is said that Marshal Blake agreed without hesitation and sent a backbone force of 10 people to join the teaching team of the Union Military Academy, and sent an additional 30 people to support the campus construction of the Union Military Academy. When classmate Yin Yulan mentioned this, there was a smile in the corners of his eyes and eyebrows. So, this was not the work of Marshal Blake, but a helper specially prepared by Colonel George Blake for Xiao Qingmini? Classmate Yin Chu, who was forced to eat a mouthful of dog food, burped immediately. In the late autumn season, Yin Chu smelled a scent of spring. This made classmate Yin Chu suddenly have the idea of wanting to fall in love. But when the list of teachers and students of Shangxi Training School came over, Zhao Jingshu's design drawings were handed to her. And the raw material procurement plan of the Savage Starship Factory was placed in front of her. Falling in love? Not happening. After a month of mecha training on Rainbow Planet, Yin Chu first solved the problem of Tang's mecha. Then, it was the Savage Starship Factory. As for Shangxi Training School, Yin Chu just pretended not to see it. With the arrival of winter, the winter vacation was approaching step by step. With 40 helpers, classmate Yin Yulan finally took out a 10-day vacation and returned to Lingsu Star region. Yin Chu originally wanted to accompany her. Unfortunately, her entry application was ruthlessly rejected by Colonel George Black. As smart as Yin Chu was, she could only quietly express snacks, gave up the idea of being a light bulb, and concentrated on preparing for the winter new product launch of Tang's mecha. Busy days always pass by very quickly. The press conference just ended, and a new semester has begun. It's time for the 7th graders to report to various troops. Standing in Principal Lan's office, looking at the students who were reluctant to say goodbye, Yin Chu couldn't help but think of the time when he went to the Expeditionary Army for internship. Jin Ruian should also go to the Blackwater Army. For this little sister who has fought together for 3 years, Yin Chu still has some feelings. I can't go back. But Yin Chu still specifically asked Yin Yulan to send Miss Jin Ruian off on his behalf. It is said that when Jin Ruian left, all the comrades who participated in the Alliance military quality competition in the past came. It is said that in the crowd of people who saw Yin Yulan, they cried like a fool. It is said that Jin Ruian performed exceptionally well in the recruit training of the Blackwater Army. Whenever I heard these news, Yin Chu would smile slightly. The matter of the Alliance military quality competition did not come to a conclusion until October of the following year. The most prestigious competition in the Alliance was left unresolved amid the arguments among the various departments. Without the Alliance military quality competition, Yin Chu could not even think of the Alliance Military Academy. With more than 40 helpers, Yin Yulan did not need her help, so she was allowed to slack off. In a blink of an eye, they all became 7th graders, and everyone began to think about their future. Yin Yulan chose to stay in school, Xiao went to the Blackwater Army. And Yin Chu? But at this critical moment, she was deliberately forgotten. When Yin Chu stood at the port of the planet Sumer, everyone looked at her with some sympathy. It was a pleasure to offend the school leaders, but you will be assigned to the crematorium after graduation. Everyone understands. However, Yin Chu herself did not care much. She walked in this strange and familiar campus in a low-key manner, drinking with Mr. He Qingfeng, playing mecha with Bai Jifeng and Shan Bailey. Life was so comfortable. As the hero who led the Alliance Military Academy team to win 3 championships in the Alliance Military Quality Competition, the school did not give Yin Chu a clear explanation until graduation. The most amazing person in the Alliance Military Academy just disappeared in the vast sea of people, and there was no trace of her anymore. From then on, the whereabouts of Yin Chu became one of the top 10 unsolved mysteries of the Alliance Military Academy. Disappeared with the Yin Chu was the mind-controlled mecha developed by Bai Jifeng and Shanbei Lufufu. The only proof that she was still alive was the rice wine that was delivered to Mr. He Qingfeng every year at the beginning of the school year. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.